Hello and welcome to Marvel Vision, a Marvel Studios TV show podcast brought to you by Cinemascore. My name is Devin Faraci. I am one of the hosts of the program. Joining me as he traditionally does.
My name is Derek Faraci, and so righteous making fudge your Auntie Griselda, so proper judging others over her tea. How are you, Devin?
I am okay. I'm in my attempts to catch up to the first Trump administration. I have begun watching Atlanta.
Ah.
By the way, your camera's doing that thing again.
Gosh dang it.
There we go. I have never watched it. I knew it was great. Like, it wasn't a question of me not thinking it would be any good. I just kind of never got around to it.
Yeah.
And I have begun watching it, and I love it.
Yeah.
And Lakeith Stanfield is the funniest fucking guy on this show.
He's very funny. Yes.
He's doing, it's like big Kramer energy, kind of.
Yes. Which feels weird in the show because it's not, the rest of the show is not that funny.
I don't know. I think the rest of the show is very funny. I laugh throughout every storyline. Yeah. But I'm only on season one.
Well, I only watched the first season, and I was like the rest of the show is humorous, but he's a different level of comedy. He's like a different thing. Nobody else is Kramering, if you will.
Yeah, I mean,
close to that level.
He's definitely the wackiest of the main characters, but they keep bumping into truly bizarre, wacky people. So I don't know. It feels correct to me. There's like a lot of absurdity in the show. I just watched an episode where Paperboy he's just getting famous, and this guy named Zan starts shit talking him online. And so Paperboy goes to Zan's work to like fuck him up. And Zan's a pizza delivery guy. And he's like, I'm going to deliver this pizza. Come with me. We'll talk on the way. And there's a little kid in the backseat. And Paperboy's like, listen, I don't want to open up on you in front of your son. And Zan goes, that's not my son. That's my business partner. We make vines. And he goes, hey, say the catchphrase. And the little kid in the backseat goes, shut up, bitch. And I'm like, this is very funny. I mean, it's just very silly. That character is very silly. The main joke about this guy, Zan, is everybody's like, what is he? Is he Cambodian? Like, is he Indian? Like, nobody knows what he is. He says the N-word all the time, and people are like, is he allowed to say that? It's very, I don't know, it's very funny. I find it very, very hilarious. So,
okay.
So I'm on season one. I'm not even finished season one. I look forward to watching all 4 seasons of the program and getting caught up with what the kids today were watching 8 years ago.
Yes.
Yes. Also, I don't have to. This show, one of those shows that had like 3 years between seasons. I don't have to wait any. I can just blow through the whole thing. So
that's one reason why I never watched all of it. Is I'm not even sure it's over.
It is over, yeah.
Is it? Because I remember them keep saying like, "Oh, we're going to do another season."
No, they had a series finale, yeah.
Okay.
So, I'm looking forward to that. There's one episode I know that I was going to watch one episode all by itself. It was this one that everybody was like, this is like the most game-changing TV episode of forever. It's the Teddy episode. I think it's a guy in whiteface, basically, playing a really weird character.
Yeah, it's Donald Glover in whiteface.
Is it that what that is? I mean, I've only seen images. I don't know for sure. Anyway, I was like, well, I should catch that one. That's one that everybody talks about. And then I was like, fuck it, I'm just gonna watch the whole show because I got nothing else going on in my life right now. And it's nice to have a show. It's nice to have a show to watch. Like when you wake up and like you're gonna eat breakfast or for dinner, you go, I know what I'm watching. I'm watching the next half hour of Atlanta.
Sure.
As opposed to like the worst thing is when you're having dinner and you're like, put your food down and you sit down in front of the TV and you're like, okay, what do we watch? And then you're like, by the time you decide what to watch, either your dinner's cold or it's finished.
Yeah.
I
find I have that problem with using my stationary bike is I'm like, well, I got to figure out what show I'm going to watch while I use my stationary bike. And if I don't have a show currently,
right,
for the next 2 to 3 days, I'm not using my bike because I'm trying to figure out what show to watch. And it's no good. That's not useful.
That's tough.
Yeah.
So you're thirsty, huh? Look at you go on that Diet Coke.
I'm sleepy.
You sleepy?
I'm
sleepy too. I'm very tired. I was laying in bed before this, and as I'm yawning right now, I was laying in bed before this, and I had my eyes closed, and I had that thing like where like I began hearing like voices in my head and stuff like that, and I was like, "Oh, these are dreams. They're dreams starting right now. I'm about to fall. I'm actually about to fall asleep right now." I had to get up because I was otherwise. But you know what's funny is I was laying in bed just now, and I was looking at the ceiling, and I was like, you know what? I used to do this all the time. Just look at the ceiling, just
Sure.
like hang out, just be. And I don't do that very much anymore.
No.
And because what happens now is the phone gets picked up. And those
Yeah.
moments of just like sitting around the room, they don't happen. So it was kind of nice just to lay there and look at the ceiling.
Yeah. Like especially like I used to just sit around and listen to music.
Yep.
No, I'll have music on in the background,
But you always got something else going on now. Yeah.
yeah, looking at Reddit or something,
Yeah.
and that's how that goes.
Yeah. Yeah. It's tough. I miss the days when my brain moves more slowly and I could just sort of think about things.
Yeah.
But
And you weren't aware of every single thing happening in the world all the time.
Yes, back then when you watched the news once a day,
Yeah,
that was all you needed.
Like maybe you just checked it every couple of days. Like, hey, what's going on?
I
Oh,
have
look at that.
I have the Citizen app on my phone, which means that I get alerted every time there's a 911 call within 2 miles of my house. So I am like so up to date, not just on national news, but I know every single crime occurring in the area around my home at any
Yeah.
given moment. So
Last week, last week I went to see Kumail Nanjiani perform.
How was it?
It was great. It was fantastic. He was amazing. But his opening act, I can't remember the guy's name. I feel terrible. But he talked about the Citizen app and how like one time he was home and he got an alert from the Citizen app and it was like, man with knife 60 feet away. And he's like, what? Like, is he in my house? What are you talking about? And like how terrified he was by that.
Well, you know what's funny is that I have the kind of mental problems that I have are the kind that like when the Citizen app says burglary in progress 120 feet away, I will go get my little bat and try to find the burglary in progress. And so like I've done that more than once. I have more than once gone out into the street looking to find the crime that's being reported and to take care of it myself with my little bat. Not very bright, I don't think. He's just shaking his head. For the folks who are listening, he's just shaking his head.
Oh,
what?
What are you fucking little LA Batman out there?
You know what? If we're all gonna die, and were I to die like getting shot, like waving my little bat at a burglar, that's pretty cool.
No, it's not.
No, it's awesome. That's the thing you could talk about. That's like, oh, he was trying to help somebody, and he died, and then they can name a law after me, Devin's Law, and then.
Devin's Law. Don't go outside your house with an ornamental bat.
It's not ornamental. It's just a half-length bat. But it's heavy. Like you could really beat the shit out of somebody with this bat. You know what I have to do? I saw a video. It was like put a sock on the end of your bat, so that in case somebody tries to grab your bat, the sock will just come sliding off, and then you'll keep your bat. That way, they don't beat you to death with your own bat. So I might start doing that. Putting a little sock on the end of my bat. So.
That's insane.
If I get into I have come down the front steps of my building with the bat in hand and be like, what's going on out here? Like I have done that. Like that has happened. And I have not died yet, but it's going to happen because I will not win the fight. I will, you know what I mean? Like I will come in blustering, but I will not prevail. So
how many movies do you need to see Joe Pesci get killed doing things like that before you figure this out?
Yeah, but it rules when he gets killed. It's pretty cool.
I guess. Sure. Buried in the desert.
Yeah, it's great. I'd love to be back. I actually have a grave in the desert, so it's fine. Yeah. Like they're saving me a lot of effort.
A reminder: he gets buried with his brother. I don't have a grave in the desert. I don't want a grave in the desert. So if we could not have that happen,
I have bad news.
Okay,
little thirsty man. The bad news is that we recorded and published an episode of Marvel or Watchmen about Captain America: Brave New World. And it's already out of date.
Is it?
Yeah, we fucked up. We spent a significant amount of time complaining about a Photoshop picture of Sam and Bucky in the movie.
Yeah.
And you said, why don't they just take a picture from D23 and use that? The thing is, the picture in the movie is a picture from D23.
Is it? Wow.
Somebody found the actual D23 photo, and they just photoshopped out the background of the step and repeat and put like some city, it looked like Vegas in the background.
So
And
that's why
so,
it looked weird. Is they didn't do a good job. Okay. Okay.
but yeah, so the exact thing that you're saying they should do, they did.
No, no,
They
no.
did the
My thing,
thing.
I did not say replace the background. My thing was like just take a shot from like a red carpet and just have them standing there. There's no like crop it close enough that you can't see like where it says like Trident Gum or whatever behind them, and like or eat Entertainment Tonight, and that's it. That would be enough. But replacing the background, that's why it looked all weird and kooky.
Yeah, I mean that, but so that is the case. They did in fact do that in the movie. The movie does have that, and it is not Photoshop. It just isn't Photoshop. I mean, obviously
But
the
it is if
background's
they change the
replaced.
background, it's Photoshop.
Yeah, but the way that it looked in the movie, it was like it looked like they had like cut Sebastian Stan's head out of a different picture and put it
It
on his
did.
body. But that's
It
not
did.
it's their actual bodies from the red carpet at D23.
Well, that's weird.
Yeah, yeah. So if you want to listen to us talk about Captain America: Brave New World and be wrong about this, you can go listen at the Patreon. If you're not a member, it's www.patreon.com/cinema sangha SANGHA. $5 and above gets you access to Watchmen and also The Bad Batch, our other Star Wars TV show podcast. Or you can just buy the individual episode for $4, but then you're not going to get the rest of the stuff. You're not going to get the writing. You're not going to get you're not going to
Which
get
I
the
mean,
Discord.
if you're gonna buy the episode for $4, spend an extra $1, and then if you like the episode, listen to other ones, and then if you like those ones, keep paying or just cancel it before the next payment comes in.
I mean, I agree, but you want to make it as easy as possible for people to make the mistake of listening to us talking.
Sure.
So that's why I offer the buy it now function. So
Yeah.
if you feel like, oh, I don't want to, because I'll forget to cancel it, you can just spend the $4. Although if you're using an iPhone, it's going to cost you $6. That is not our fault. That is Apple puts a surcharge on it. So
Way to go, Apple.
this is why you can't buy Amazon Kindle books on your phone.
Yeah.
On your iPhone, because Apple wants to put a surcharge and Amazon won't do it.
Nope.
So you look at the Amazon app and you look at your Kindle books, and you have to go to the Amazon webpage and then actually buy it there. So
Yeah.
very annoying.
Very annoying. You got to do that with even if you're on Android now. You got to do that
because really? Because they want the cut too, right?
I don't know if they want to cut, but I think it's just easier to just have one basic program for that instead of doing it differently for Apple and Android. Maybe I don't know. I don't know.
Anyway, how was your weekend?
I was good. I spent today watching The House in Between parts 1 and 2.
What is this?
It's a supernatural documentary about a haunted house that has been being investigated for about 15 years. And
have they not found anything yet?
Nothing great. Sometimes a ball moves down the stairs.
15 years. We got a ball moving. Wow.
Yep. Well, it's great because whenever I watch any of these, because I love these kinds of things, and this one is really good. The 2 parts are really good because they don't sensationalize anything. They're just kind of like, here it is, here's the stuff. And all of these ones like this, which are the ones I prefer, always remind me of like the scene in Poltergeist when the guy's like, we've recorded a toy car moving like a quarter of an inch over 12 hours. And he's like, oh yeah. And he opens up the door and everything's flying around. Like, I always think about that's all any of these things are, is like, hey, this ball moved. There you go. Right. Like, and I appreciate that. I enjoy that. And this one was good. It's 2 different movies. They did one, and then they came back for a follow-up documentary, or follow-up investigation, I guess. And it was well done. I thought it was a very well done one. There is one moment where one of the people is like, because one of the big things that happened before the investigations began was the woman who lives in the house says that there was like a light that like shone in her room and like moved around and stuff, and it terrified her. And one of the investigators is like, who knows, maybe it's like aliens or something. And then another investigator is like, aliens? Come on, no. And it's like, guys, you're hunting ghosts. You can't be against the idea of it being aliens. Like,
was it just car headlights?
No, they tried that out.
Okay.
And from where her bedroom was, the window faces out to the woods, so there would not be car headlights and stuff. They discussed that.
Could it
The
just be like
woman,
guys hunting in the woods and then like shining their flashlights around?
maybe, because one thing they do this in the second episode, in the second
Yeah.
one, not in the first one. In the second
Yeah.
one, they go into her bedroom and they're like,
Okay.
"There's mirrors all over this room. Like there's
Right.
tons of mirrors." So it's
That
very
makes
plausible.
lights go all over the
Yeah,
place.
that
Yeah.
light could have gone anywhere. So who knows? But the craziest thing to me is the house. The woman built the house
Okay.
and has always lived in the house.
Okay.
But at some point, the light thing scared her so much that she won't stay in the house anymore. But
Okay.
she won't sell it either. And at no point do they explain how she's able to afford this house and also live somewhere else. And she says she's like a nurse, so she's not making bank.
I mean, is she Airbnb-ing it?
No. At least they don't say that.
I mean, we don't know that for sure that she could
I
be. She
guess
could
that she's
very
like,
well be
let the
doing that.
ghosts haunt these people, I guess.
Yeah,
I don't know.
exactly. Yeah. Yeah. I mean,
Yeah.
actually, you put it on Airbnb, say haunted house.
That would go.
Then you charge extra money, in fact, for that.
Yeah. Yeah.
That would go. That you would be able to move that, and
And
then you
especially
say
now there's two documentaries. Yeah.
as seen on the house in between parts 1 and 2. Yeah,
Yeah.
that's 100%. Like stay in a certified haunted house that's had 2 documentaries made about it.
Investigated by like 3 different people from the Ghost Hunters TV show. So you show
Wow.
up in it. So there you go.
I mean, those guys. Those are the.
I mean, their
cream of the
names.
crop.
They people recognize their names if they're into that stuff.
They're creams of the crop. Those guys.
Yeah.
They're really the deal.
I mean, this fetish show for that. There are no ghost adventurers yelling at the ghosts, but
I had a dream that a friend of mine, a male friend of mine, a good friend of mine, texted me and said, I miss you so much. And I texted back and I said, I miss you too. And then I woke up this morning and I was like, wait, did I text that? Because that feels really uncomfortable and weird. And I had to go open my phone and look and say, did I just fucking text I miss you so much too to one of my guy friends? And I was like, okay, no, I didn't. And not that I wouldn't say I miss you to a guy friend, but like in the dream, the subtext had a little bit of a romantic element to it.
sure.
And so I woke up and I was just like, Jesus Christ. And one of the nice things about being sober is that almost never happens anymore. Once upon a time when I drank, you'd wake up and go, what the fuck happened last night? But now that I'm sober, I wake up in the morning and most of the time I know what's happening.
Yeah.
Like this weekend, I stayed in a hotel in Joshua Tree and I did wake up in the morning and I was like, where the fuck am I? That gave me a pause. But usually I don't wake up and have this confusion about what I did last night. But I did this morning and it was because of this weird text stream. So maybe I am in love with this guy.
Maybe.
What a way to find out in my dreams.
Maybe you just like, I haven't spoken to this person in a while and I miss him.
I talk to him like every day.
Oh, okay. Well, then that's not it. Maybe you're like, it would be great to miss this person for a while.
We have like a Slack channel that we all chat in. So yeah, got a little boys channel. So he's definitely not like distant. So, but what do you know? It was just very funny. And because I used to, when I drank, I'd wake up in the morning and it was like being a detective. Because you'd wake up and you go, all right, I have a receipt for Burger King. And I have this, and I'm missing this, and you know what I mean? Like I have a flash of this bar, and then you have to piece together the thing and feel, how the fuck did I get home last night? Like what did I? But now I don't have that anymore. Just most mornings I wake up and I know exactly where I am, and I don't have a hangover, and I feel okay most mornings. It's pretty crazy. If you're out there listening to this and you're like, boy, maybe I'm drinking too much, let me tell you, on the other side, it's pretty nice. It's not so bad. Every now and again I miss the ability to just go to a bar and be social and like drink and like unlock that social part of me. But most of the time I don't. And especially when it comes to the mornings, I do not miss that stuff. So
yeah,
just a little message here, a PSA about sobriety from your friends at Marvel Vision.
I mean, that's definitely one thing. I did not have the same drinking problem as you, but I definitely at some point was like, I just don't like waking up feeling like shit.
Yeah.
And that's a big part of why I just don't drink anymore. Like I didn't, I would drink every now and again or like on weekends, but now it's like, no, it's just, it doesn't feel good. It's just like, I feel bad the next day. Even if I only have like 2 beers, I feel bad the next day because I'm old and tired and I want to go to bed.
I was recently thinking about how back in the day when I would go out to bars and I would come home and I wake up in the morning, my pillow would smell like smoke because you could smoke in bars back then.
Yeah.
And how much I hated that. Like waking up and everything I had on smelled like smoke and my hair smelled like smoke.
Yeah.
And that was nice when they stopped letting people smoke in bars. But
now every bar just smells like BO and stale beer.
Yeah, I don't mind those smells.
I don't.
They don't end up on your fucking pillow.
That's true.
That's the thing. The smoke ended up in your hair. Like that really, you took that home with you. That's why I always wonder when people in TV shows or movies are like secretly smoking or like secretly going to the bar. I'm like, can the people they live with have no sense? They have no sense of smell. Like, how do you secretly smoke? It just feels to me like that's like, you can tell. I think only smokers, because they have a bad sense of smell, believe that they can secretly smoke.
I think it's dependent. I think if you secretly smoke outside, it's easier because it's not lingering around you, but it's still going to get on your clothes. It's still
That's
going
the
to be on
thing.
your fingers.
People come in from the outside after having a cigarette, and I could smell the fucking cigarette on them.
Yeah.
I could smell it. Like, oh, that's a cigarette smell. You have been
Yeah.
smoking. I know that you have
Yeah.
been smoking.
Yeah. Spritz yourself.
You have to keep walking. You have to keep walking so the cigarette smoke keeps trailing behind you, so it never lands.
And like hold it like behind you the whole time.
Exactly.
The straw, like a long crazy straw that connects to the cigarette. Yeah.
I think there's never been a person who has pulled the cigarette past me, like in terms of like being a secret smoker. I don't think it's ever happened.
No.
I
don't know.
I can't think of anybody. I know people who have tried, and I've been like, "You smoking again?" They're like, "Yeah, I am." But yeah, have you secret smoked around me? I don't think so. I think I knew you were smoking when you were smoking.
Yeah.
Yeah. So
I would imagine secret smoking is exhausting.
Yeah, I mean, is it
tiring?
Oh, was it part of the fun, like having like a little like spy mission?
I maybe, I don't know, but it just sounds. It's like all of a sudden, then you're like, oh, how can I sneak away to have a cigarette? And it's like, that sounds very tiring.
I always think about in movies and TV shows when the kids upstairs will smoke in the bedroom and the parents don't know, and I'm like, how is that possible? I just, even if your window's open, I don't believe it. I just don't believe it. Like, I just don't buy it. I mean, I can tell when my neighbor is smoking.
I wonder, like something like that. I've thought about that too, and then it's like, you don't see that in modern stuff, and so
That's just
then
kids
it's
just
a thing
vape
of like,
now.
because kids just vape now, but like in like the 70s, 80s, and even the 90s, no matter where you went, it kind of smelled like cigarette smoke.
I mean, that is a good point. So, like in those days, the conceptual idea is that the parents smoked anyway, so that the whole house reeked of smoke anyhow.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So like there was no getting away from it,
Yeah.
Like everything smelled like cigarette smoke back then.
Oh, really
It's
did.
weird.
It was really disgusting.
Yeah.
It was really, really. I watched somebody do a YouTube video. Their grandparents died, and they went to go clean their house, and the walls had turned deeply yellow from 40 years of smoking inside the house. Just turned deeply yellow, and I think people don't realize that that's what it was like once upon a time.
No, you take away like a picture frame, and it's white behind the frame.
Yep.
And it's like, whoa,
that's what happened to them. They didn't realize. They were like, "Oh, grandma has yellow walls," and then they moved, took a picture, and they go, "What the fuck?"
Yeah.
It's amazing. Yeah, the young people today don't know what it was like to go, because back then the smoking section of a restaurant was just 6 feet away. Like that was all that it was. There was nothing else.
There was a little partition. There would be like a table, a partition, a non-smoking table, a partition, a smoking table,
but not even
the
partition, the ceiling. Yeah,
no, the partition was maybe 5 feet high,
if even that. Yeah,
yeah, like you could easily look over it and see the people smoking. It was not, that difficult,
And then with smoke in the back of the plane,
smoking in the back of the
as
plane.
If that would make a difference. Crazy, isn't it?
It is crazy to me that there are still planes flying with ashtrays in them, and it's like, how is this possible?
I mean, they're old planes.
But like you would think they would like replace the seats at least. Like, what is going on here?
My guess is that it's too expensive to replace the seats, and there's no reason to if the seats are in good shape. And then the other thing is that maybe they have like a bunch of seats sitting around.
Yeah.
That they got to keep using. I think that I don't see ashtrays anymore. I haven't seen ashtrays in a plane in a long time. A long time. So, but there was a while, like, and sometimes you see like a bathroom in a plane that has an ashtray still inside of it.
Yeah.
But sometimes planes will fly for 30 or more years.
Oh, sure.
So it's kind of crazy.
There's a Reddit page called "What Is It?"
Yeah.
And there was one a couple of days ago where a person was like, "This was in like my dad's house. It seems to be made out of some kind of clay. I don't know what it is. It was an ashtray. Guy had no clue what it was. Like it was some like 17-year-old kid had no clue what it was, and everyone's like, it's an ashtray. He's like, what?
That's amazing. That's amazing. I love that.
Yeah.
All right, we got any news this week?
We do. Who was it? Deadline reported that Jeff Wadlow and James Watkins were both in the mix to direct DC's Clayface, And then the Hollywood Reporter came out and said, not so fast. Jeff
Uh-oh.
Wadlow is not in consideration for Clayface.
Wow.
So take that, Deadline. Yes.
And do we have feelings about this? Do we have feelings?
Not really. The only James Watkins movie I've seen is The Woman in Black, and I did not like it very much.
Yeah.
But I know a lot of other people did.
Mm-hmm.
I did not see Speak No Evil, which seemed to do pretty well. People like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I haven't seen anything else he's done, so who knows? And Wadlow, I've seen a couple of his movies, I think, and I did not like any of them.
Mm-hmm.
Truth or Dare, didn't like. Kick-Ass 2, I did not like. Those are the two I saw of
Right.
his. Bloodshot.
Oh, that's a great one.
There you go.
I
Is
like that
him?
one. I think it might be, right? Is it?
He's showing up on Google for Bloodshot.
Well, yeah, I mean, who knows?
But it's producer, director. It does not come up for him under director on IMDb,
Okay, well, there
so
you
I'm
go.
guessing not.
All right.
Maybe he wrote it? I don't know. He did. He wrote Bloodshot.
Good for him.
So, but yeah. And then I guess what's his name? Oh gosh, I can't remember his name. The guy who directed The Orphanage, the Spanish director.
Bayona.
And did Bayona. He was in talks at the end of the year, but those talks have kind of gone silent, they said. And that's too bad because I think he could be good.
Okay.
But that's where we are on that. They're looking for a director. Hoping to start filming soon. $40 million budget.
Okay.
We'll go with that.
All right.
During, I guess, there's some kind of basketball thing going on. All-Star game or something.
Mm-hmm.
And they did a new promo for Superman, which is David Cornsweet, James Gunn, and Shaquille O'Neal hanging out. And I suppose it's the first time there's been a commercial for a Superman product that ends with somebody saying "fuck Barkley," because that's how the commercial ends.
Wow.
Yeah. So that's weird. Yeah. No jokes about Steel, but there is a joke about Kazam. So that was interesting. Yeah. So there's that. It's a fun little ad where Shaquille thinks that he's there to play Superman, and they're like, "No, this is Superman." And then if you watch, by the way, they put out a clips of like bloopers.
Okay.
And Shaquille O'Neal calls David Cornsweet.
Nice.
So
nice.
He might be Shaq. Do you listen?
Shaq might have a David Cornsweet mug.
He might.
Bought. Where can people find a David Cornsweet mug?
At cinema-sanga.com. You can go right there and you'll see a link to the store. You can go buy yourself a David Cornsweet mug.
Oh man.
And then we got a new ad for Daredevil, Born Again. My favorite part of the ad is right before the tagline for the show, like the devil's work is never done, is just a giant thing that says TVMA to let you know
this is serious.
This is serious. This is a angry show.
Oh,
so man. There you go. So we have that. And then Natasha Lyonne and Anna Lily Amaraport are making Joe Hill's comic Basket Full of Heads into a movie.
Have you read it?
I have not. I have not. But there you go.
Anna Lily's pretty cool. I've met her a couple times. She's a pretty cool person. And she's a good filmmaker. So there's very exciting.
I guess people who have read it are interested to see how it's going to work.
Really?
Because Natasha Lyonne, I guess, is going to star. She's going to be the main character. In the comic, the main character is in college.
Oh, okay. That's not going to play.
Yeah, that's probably not going to work out. Unless it's like, I'm going back to college after like whatever. They could
maybe that could be the case. Yeah, that could be the deal. She could be a teacher.
Yeah.
She could be a professor.
Sure.
She could work in the library.
Many possibilities.
I
also don't know how important her being in college is to the story.
Yeah, who knows? Is that all the news you have?
That's all I got.
So I guess maybe screeners of Daredevil have gone out.
Okay.
Because somebody is saying that Karen is in 3 episodes of Daredevil and Foggy's in 2 episodes of Daredevil.
Oh.
So that's, I would say, for us.
Promising
as hell. Very hopeful. And season 2 has already begun filming.
Okay.
So Benson and Moorhead have returned. They're going to film season 2 also. They are Marvel's go-to TV guys. As I said before on one of these shows, I tried to fight one of these guys one time. And now they're Marvel's go-to TV guys. So good for them.
Yeah, there you go.
They managed to not fight me and also become major.
Call that a 1-2 punch.
I tried to fight one of them, and the other one of the duo went on a date with Brittany before I met her.
Wow.
Yeah.
What is this, a sitcom? What is going on?
It's LA, baby. It's LA. It's the industry. That's the
LA,
deal,
baby.
Like, that's the way it works out here, man. That is the way it works out here.
Yeah.
So Daredevil's going to open with 2 episodes.
Yep.
So we're going to have our work cut out for us that first week. Just when we're hoping to not have to do epic episodes anymore because we're doing 3 episodes of Spider-Man every single week.
Well, there's something else with that, by the way.
What's that?
Daredevil premieres 2 episodes the day I'm flying out to Los Angeles.
Oh, we'll get to watch it together.
I guess.
Very exciting.
Yeah.
And the other pieces of news is that Doomsday starts shooting in March. So we're a few weeks away from Doomsday shooting. It's going to shoot through the summer. And Secret Wars is going to shoot next summer. And this is from Anthony Mackie's mouth, saying that's the way it goes. And it looks like Spider-Man 4 is filming this summer. There was a contest, win a trip to the Spider-Man 4 set this summer. For like if you donate some money to something. So that sounds like they are planning to shoot this summer.
Well, there you go.
And then a mildly okay source, My Time to Shine Hello, says that the coveted role of Dick Ryder in Nova, they're looking at Jonathan Bailey.
I don't know
and
what it is.
You actually probably haven't seen Wicked, have you?
I did see Wicked. I saw it in the theater.
Oh, okay. Well, he plays Fiyero in Wicked.
Oh,
he's the prince.
Yeah.
He's great in that movie. He's unbelievably great.
Yeah, he was good.
So very interesting to see if I forgot that you saw Wicked. That's right. Very interesting to see if that's the case. Again, My Time to Shine Hello is, it's not the most reliable of all the internet Twitter scoopers.
Yeah.
But yeah.
I was in Broadchurch as well. I saw that.
Yeah. He's been in a couple of things. He's been around the block a little bit. So that's really, really cool. I would like Jonathan Bailey to be that because I like him a lot. So
yeah,
I really like him. And also I just think Dick Ryder is just an incredible role for anybody to have.
I mean, to have that on your resume.
To be a Dick Ryder is just unbelievable. So
it's amazing. Amazing.
Oh God. We talked about this on Watchmen, but I'm going to talk about it here again. Captain America Brave New World has a B- cinema score.
Yes.
That is the worst cinema score for any Marvel movie.
Yes. Which is pretty shocking.
Why?
Because, Thor the Dark World is complete garbage. And I would think that would be the lowest.
Yeah, I think that there's a couple of things. Remember, CinemaScore, they asked them, did you get what you expected?
Yeah.
And it's really largely it's a reflection of how the movie was marketed. Because remember, every A24 movie gets an F because they're really good at marketing them.
Yeah.
But then people go see the movie and they go, that's just not the wild-ass movie. Yeah. I thought this was. It's an art movie.
Well, my question then is the people that they asked coming out of Captain America, what did they think they were going to get?
So I suspect that we talked about this also on the Watchmen, which is that they didn't think that the trailers were showing the entire movie and all of the big finales. And the trailers do. They show the whole end.
Yeah.
So I think that might have been part of it. Like, I think that they walk out and they go, wait, this is just exactly what's... There was nothing new. There's nothing surprising in this.
What if they were all walking out like the trailer showed me a funeral? There was no funeral. I'm out. That's it. I came here to see a funeral.
Oh my God. Yeah. So, not great. Not great.
The movie is shaping up to have a good opening weekend,
but I think it's going to drop off real hard after that. Yeah.
That's the thing is it's looking at about 200 million worldwide this weekend.
Yeah.
And then it's probably going to drop off real hard. And according, I think, to Deadline, it needs to make like 450 to break even.
Yeah, and it's not only going to do that.
That's going to be rough.
Yeah, I think it might creep to it, but I would not count on it. I
With
would
that, I
not count
always
on it.
wonder too, because again, there is a lot of like marketing tie-ins to this movie.
Yeah,
So like, I'm pretty sure I don't know who their marketing tie-ins with, like McDonald's or whatever, has to pay for that tie-in.
they do. Yeah.
So is that already counted off from the break even? Like, I don't think it's going to be like $100 million or something, but if it's like 20, 30 million, that makes it a little easier.
Well, Deadline reported that they had a deal with Tide, an $8 million deal with Tide.
That's a lot of money.
It's a lot of money. And the people on our Discord were making fun of this, but I thought it sounded amazing, which was that the Tide campaign was basically about the idea of collateral stain, the idea that like
Yeah.
in the Marvel universe, you might be a civilian and then you might get like dirty from a
Yeah,
fight.
the commercials are funny where it shows like Hulk knock over like a hot dog stand and somebody gets like hot dog water all over him or whatever. And like, "Meow,"
Well, they did a
that's fun.
screening of the movie for like contest winners or whatever, and it was in 4DX where people sat there and got stained.
Oh, that's fun.
And our Discord was like, "This is stupid," but I was like, "Oh, that sounds awesome! Actually, that sounds so great." And that sounds like the kind of thing like where you like have like film people going in, like, are you excited to see Captain America? And then they come out and they're covered in mud and shit, and they're like,
Yeah.
"Well, how was it?" And they go, "My God, it was an incredible experience. I feel like I've been dragged through, the Indian Ocean or whatever." Like, I don't know.
I like your
As a,
Freudian slip there.
what did I say?
You said uncredible.
Okay, well, that's not so bad. Okay, I was a little worried. Before you said, "Oh man,
Oh no,
this is it. This is where it all comes to an end, my friends." Yeah. So I don't know. That sounded really cool to me. Like as somebody who enjoys hucksterism and
Yeah.
who has had a nice time when I was working at Draft House of like coming up with like gimmicky screening concepts. That sounds really fun. Like I love a good gimmicky screening. I'm all about it.
Sure. Yeah. Yeah.
We had it was Universal's 100th anniversary maybe, and we had a whole pitch deck that we did of things that we wanted to do to celebrate Universal's 100th anniversary. And it was going to be showing classic Universal movies in special locations. And so there was a couple like Transylvania to show Dracula. And then the two that I was most excited about, go to the Channel Islands, put everybody in shark cages with a little handheld personal monitor, chum the water for sharks, and then show them Jaws.
That's fun.
And then the other one was to show The Thing in Antarctica.
That's pretty cool.
And so to go to Antarctica is really hard. And I was like, we have to get this fucking deal cut because I need to go to Antarctica. I need to have done it because I don't know how else I'm going to be able to go to Antarctica.
Yeah.
So did you know that if you go work in Antarctica, like if you go there to be a cook or just something like to work at the base down there, you have to get your appendix taken out before you go.
Really?
Yep. Just because
they don't want to risk it.
They don't want to risk it. Yeah. It's just one of those things that's so deadly and it's so common and you can't really tell when it's going to happen. So it's like better safe than sorry.
According to a recent episode of The Pit, if your appendix bursts, if you catch it before it bursts, they can just give you a pill now.
Yeah, but my suspicion is that the medical situation in Antarctica is not as excellent as a big city hospital. It was the reason why.
I mean, you think they could just stash those pills up there?
I think you have to catch it before it bursts.
Yeah.
And that's the problem.
Okay.
That's the tricky part. Most people don't catch it before it bursts. So that becomes the issue. So they just take the appendix out so they don't have to worry about it. Because you don't need it. Sense. It's fucking vestigial organ.
Sure.
So that's kind of cool. You get like a surgery and then you get to go to Antarctica. I think
Antarctica and a night in a hospital and free ice cream.
It's incredible.
Wow.
Technically, you might be able to lose a pound or two, depending on how much your appendix weighs.
Yeah. Wow. It's not a bad deal.
Miss me with that Ozempic. I'm getting an appendectomy.
Think about it. Like, I can't afford healthcare. I'll just go get a job in Antarctica. And then they'll have to give me like a full routine because they're going to take out my appendix. So at least they'll also do blood work and stuff.
Oh, no, they'll just not let you go. If you come up as too sick or having too much stuff.
No, but that's what I'm saying is like, at least I can get everything checked. Okay. You know?
They have to do a full workup when you go on Survivor. And a couple of seasons ago, the show had its first ever trans man on the show. And it was like, wow, this is pretty incredible. And then that person got kicked out before the first episode even ended because the doctors, the med team discovered that they were on lithium and did not tell anybody. And lithium is a heavy duty one. and he had tried tapering off the lithium himself, but even that, like, it's like you kind of can't. Like,
Yeah.
lithium is one of those ones, like, it's like a psychotic. I mean, like,
Yeah.
antipsychotic. And so they're all hanging out on the beach, and Jeff shows up, and he's like, "Did you lie about your medication?" They fucking made him leave. It's pretty incredible. But yeah, you got to do a whole thing that for Survivor too. They don't make you get your appendix out though.
No, well, that's good.
I mean, they think they have pretty reason. I don't know what the
Survivor does make you get your dignity out though.
no Survivor gives you dignity, and it gives you.
I disagree. I think all reality shows are for people with no dignity.
No, Survivor gives you nobility. It gives you strength. It gives you. It's a weight loss program. It gives you a new body. Survivor. I would love to go on Survivor, man. I can't. Like, I don't have it in me to do it. I'm not in good enough shape. I'm not healthy enough. But like, I would love it. I think seems incredible to me. It seems like the coolest fucking thing, and it's no more a reality show than your Ghost Hunter shows are.
Where did I say those were dignified?
I'm not saying that those aren't really reality shows, right? They're like just little documentaries. This is just a game show that they just happen to hang around. But it's a game show. Like, that's the deal. There's not like the challenges are not like intended to like create conflict. The challenges are intended to hurt them, actually. But yeah. Anyway, I would love. My friend Allie has been trying to go on Survivor, and she talked to Jeff Probst, and he was like, it can happen. It can happen for you. So I think that she should do it, man. I think she should go and be on Survivor.
Sure, I guess. I don't know.
Were you mad when John Lovett went on Survivor? Because you're like Derek, for the folks at home, is a resist lib. He's a blue waiver.
I have not listened to Pod Save America in a long time now.
And he was a Pod Save America guy, and one of the hosts of Pod Save America went on Survivor.
Yeah, no, I mean, he got kicked off like the first episode.
The first episode, he was out immediately, and they used him really heavily in the marketing too.
Yeah,
which is actually kind of great, because that's a really kind of a smart thing for Survivor to do, because you see him in the marketing and you go, "Oh, he must be on the whole series," and then he's out the first episode. Yeah. And a lot of people always say that the show's rigged, but like, if the show was rigged, he wouldn't have been voted out the first episode. They would never allow that to happen. They wouldn't, because you want to have the guy with the big podcast on your show, and he's funny, you know what I mean? Like, and that would have been really great. But so he got voted out the very first episode.
Yep.
Tough spot to be in. First vote out. Very tough spot to be in. I can't. That's humiliating.
Is it? I don't know. Because then they just put you in a hotel for a month, right? Like,
yeah. What happens then is that you go.
Great.
So what you do is, for the first week or two, you go to Ponderosa, which is like the on-site resort that they use to everybody to go to. But once they get to the part of the show, the second half of the show, where they start voting people into the jury, and the jury is the ones who decide who wins $1 million at the end.
Yeah.
Once that happens, they get all those first people out, and they all go somewhere together. They all go to like Argentina, or they go. I mean, they have a vacation. Yeah.
Sounds great.
Yeah. No, that sounds really good. And then you make $10,000 just for being on the show.
Wow. Wonderful. I always think of. I don't remember which season it is, but the Real World season where they went to London. Which is that 2, 3, 4, whichever one it is. And there's one guy who spends the entire time not talking to anybody else that's on the show, that's in the house. He watches movies. He just hangs out. He goes off and does his own thing. And he's like, I just wanted a trip to London. I just wanted to take a trip to London. And this was the best way. I couldn't afford it myself. It's like, that guy's a genius.
Well, what's really amazing is that the Real World, they hit a point where they realized that people were just being on it. It's the Real World alarm. People were just being on it just to go places. Yeah. And so they began making them get jobs.
Yes.
And that,
I think it was like after that, they started doing like, now you have to do challenges and stuff.
Yeah. And I think that ruined the Real World. I think that ruined the first couple of seasons where they're just regular kind of people. The reality TV hadn't really begun yet. And so they were in for. That was really interesting. Like, they didn't know what they were in for, and they all had their own lives they were still living. But then eventually
that London season was fantastic, because you had that guy who just wanted to go to London. And used it as a way to go to London. And then you had a guy from like Texas or something who, when they got there and found out that there's no ranch dressing in Europe, in the UK, he had his dad send him like a giant box of ranch dressing. And I always loved that. And then like all these British people got to try ranch dressing for the first time. And like, this is gross. But he was like, no, it's the best. And then there was a guy who broke his dick having sex. and
On the
that's
show?
on the show. Yes, they all had to rush him to the
I
hospital
don't
because he
remember
broke his
this.
dick.
I don't
Yep,
remember this at all. And I
yep.
watched those. That's crazy.
I remember that
Um,
being like, because I was that season 2. I was like 15, 16. I was like, you can break your dick. I had no
that
idea.
wasn't season 2. Season 2 was San Francisco.
Then it
Um,
must have been like season. It's 3 or 4. It was early into the series.
it might have been 3 or 4. Yeah. And then actually, there's a connection between real world and comic books.
Yes, Judd
Judd
Winnick.
Winnick, yeah,
Yeah,
from the very first season.
I thought he
Um,
was San Francisco, wasn't he?
was he the second season? Yeah, you're right. He's the second season. Yeah, he's season 2. He lived with Pedro, who had AIDS. Big deal at the time to have
Yeah.
a person with AIDS on TV. Pedro did pass away, and he lived with Puck,
Yes.
one of the all-time great reality TV show characters, who would pick his nose and then use his finger to eat the communal peanut butter.
Yes.
It's so incredible.
Yes. And Judd Winnick met his wife on Real World. He's
Yeah.
married to another one of the contestants. Yeah.
Is it Rachel he's married to?
I can't remember who.
Yeah. Yeah, it's pretty amazing.
Judd Winnick. Yeah, he was on Real World. Made a comic about Pedro.
Yep, Pedro and
About
me. I think
Pedro
won
and
some
me.
awards, right?
Won some awards, was very big. Then went on to be like, let's bring Jason Todd back to life. And now everybody hates him. And that's it.
But Jason Todd Back to Life is popular. That's Red Hood. That's a popular character, isn't it?
He's got his fan base. But most people agree like this was a terrible idea.
I mean, yeah, it was a terrible idea. But
One thing we didn't discuss.
He must have been told. He must have been told by editorial.
Yeah, I'm sure it was an editorial thing.
Yeah,
because they like toyed with it like earlier with like
Right.
Hush. They did a whole thing in Hush where
Right.
it looked like Jason Todd was Hush, and I think with that they were like, well, people got real excited by that idea, so let's do it. But one thing we didn't discuss during news, because it's more comic book and not comic book movie, Marvel has been hinting that Gwen Stacy's coming back to life. So get ready for that.
I mean, would not be the first time. So it's
Yeah.
one of those things where it's like they've done this so many times and then retconned it that it seems impossible to care.
Yeah.
It just seems impossible to care. So, and I also feel like the nature of the Spider-Verse removes the intensity of that, because there is a Spider-Gwen and Peter has met her. And so he has come face to face with his dead girlfriend a couple of times. And they actually already did a really good story where Peter hallucinates that Gwen comes back. And I thought it was really, really well done. And it was very emotional. It was very, very good. And I don't know how you're going to top that, because it's going to be, who cares? But the image they use is like her grave being dug up. So
yeah,
it'd be cool. She's a zombie. That would actually, I wouldn't mind that.
There you go. Who knows?
She's a rotten zombie.
Who knows? She's like, oh, where are the kids I had with Norman Osborn?
That got retconned.
Good.
All right. So we have a listener mail.
We do.
What we got?
Let's see. We're going to start with this one. This is from Jim B. Johnson. Why did Devin choose Marvel, and why did Derek choose DC as their favorites? I'll let you go first.
I didn't choose.
Marvel chose me.
Marvel chose me. I don't know. I was Spider-Man, man. I'm a Spider-Man guy from ever since I was a little kid. And so that's it. Like, I've just always been a Spider-Man guy, and Spider-Man really spoke to me, and I love Spider-Man. And I grew up around where Spider-Man grew up, like it was felt very personal to me. And from there it became a Marvel thing. Also, I think that I was getting into reading comics at one of the absolute high points of Marvel comics.
Yeah.
Like the early to mid 80s, just a really excellent run of comics were happening then. Especially like X-Men and shit has never been topped. And so I think that's part of it too. And I don't think that DC had that kind of juice at that period. This is right before Crisis.
Yeah.
And DC was sort of running on fumes, and they had like Teen Titans was like the most popular comic in the world for a minute back then, right? That was this period pre-Crisis, right?
Yes. Yeah. It was literally there's an ongoing theory that I think is a pretty strong theory that the collapse of DC as like the number one was the Titans X-Men crossover, because that's when all of a sudden X-Men really exploded at that time as well. And there's like this ongoing theory of like, oh, everyone that was reading Titans read the X-Men Titans crossover and was like, I gotta check out this X-Men stuff.
Yeah.
Like, oh, this is better. I'm going over here now.
Yeah, because I think people wouldn't realize that, but the Titans X-Men crossover, the Titans were the lead. Like that really
Yeah.
was the deal, and that seems crazy now, but like
Oh yeah.
that is the deal. And so that's why I'm a Marvel guy. Like it's just because I think I came up at the exact right moment to be a Marvel guy, and also because Spider-Man just has spoken to me so deeply my whole life that it was always drawing me to Marvel.
Yeah. Yeah. I can get that. For me, it was definitely a thing of I came in post-crisis, late 80s, early 90s is where I really started collecting comics. And I liked Marvel stuff. I like Spider-Man. Squadron Supreme is, I still think, one of the greatest miniseries of all time. But DC was rebuilding at that point, and they seemed more uh, adventurous with their storylines. Where Marvel, it was like there was too many X-Men stuff, and like everybody had like 7 different series that you had to follow.
Mm-hmm.
Where DC was much more, here's your Flash book, here's your Justice League. You know, Superman had 4 titles, so that was a little much, but
Batman had a couple
they were
titles.
Batman had 2 titles. You know, like 2 like connecting titles, and then they also had like Legends of Dark Knight and whatnot, like that kind of thing. But like most of their characters, like here's their thing. You can just read this, you're fine. You know, and also not for nothing, DC books were cheaper than Marvel books.
Mm-hmm.
They always stayed behind on upping the prices. And with Marvel, everything was constant like crossovers between books back then, and like Spider-Man had 3 or 4 books, and the X-Men had 3 or 4 books, and Punisher was jumping in, and Wolverine was popping up in every book, and it was like it was too much. It was annoying. It was like, oh, this is kind of annoying to try and keep up with. Like way compared to today, it was nothing. But like trying to keep up with all the different stuff felt tiresome. Where DC felt more separated. DC was doing their crossovers, their big event crossovers in annuals, so it was
Right.
easier to just not pay attention to it if you didn't want to. And Marvel did that too for a while with like
Atlantis
Atlantis
Attacks.
Attacks and right, but then like Days of Vengeance was like through everything, and that was all wacky and like
Acts of Vengeance. Yeah.
Acts of Vengeance. Sorry, yes, you know, DC just felt more like, hey, you can get in now, and you don't need to know too much. You don't need to, you know, understand the last 30 years of X-Men to figure out what's going on in Justice League, because it was a whole new team, right? And they were hanging out and they're doing fun stuff, and it was a little lighter. It was a little more exciting, you know, was my feeling on it.
It's funny because when Crisis happened and all that stuff in the late 80s, early 90s, Marvel began going to shit kind of. And I really just like kind of like took me out. Like I was like not as interested in Marvel anymore. Like we really got to like the debut of the Image guys coming in. I thought a lot of those comics were just bad. They were too art driven. Excuse me.
Well, there's a real interesting thing about how when Jim Lee came onto X-Men,
Right.
he really pushed for sequels to stories, and Claremont never wanted to go back. And that is in many ways the downfall of comics, is that now everything is a sequel to a previous story. So you're never moving forward. You're always looking back, even today. And Claremont was right. No, you got to keep moving forward. Otherwise, new readers can't jump in, because you're telling them, oh, this thing that happened 30 years ago, we're doing another story about that. And
Right.
it's too hard to keep up.
But you know, in that period, there was a real moment where I thought I was becoming a DC guy because I was super into Superman during the Triangle era, when all the Superman books were connected and they each had a triangle on the cover telling you what order to read the comics in.
Great series. Yeah, great time.
They had that as an omnibus now. Superman
Yep.
the Triangle era as omnibus, and I also JLI. I was huge into the Justice League stuff, and then I think it was breakdowns when JLI came to an end.
That's when Geffen and DeMatteis left. Yeah.
Yeah, and I think when that happened, I think I began dropping out because I think that there was like a lot. I think that DC had already they hit the gas really hard, and a lot of stuff I really was into initially. And then I think they began really hitting the wall pretty fast for me. And also part of the things that DC felt more adult than Marvel did at this point, because DC had done Watchmen, had done Dark Knight Returns. And these things for me, as at that point, I'm like 17 years old, felt really cool. And I mean, obviously those are both great books, but, and then that just sort of like went away, and then DC fell back. The thing with DC is that it keeps falling into the gravitational well of its own history, and it can't escape it. It just continuously reboots. It continuously is obsessed with its own continuity. And like by the time we got to like I enjoyed Zero Hour and stuff, but even by the time we got to Zero Hour, I was like, man, like we're still doing this. Like this is like now we have to clean up all the time travel. We don't really have to do this. Like we don't need to do this. Like make a cool crossover that's based on a cool villain. Don't have to have it be tied into the history of DC Comics. And so I fell out. And then in the early to mid '90s, I got really into indie comics for a while. So I was out of superheroes for a hot minute. And then eventually I came back to Marvel because I think Marvel had another renaissance. You know, they hired a lot of really good writers, I think.
Yeah. And that's the thing is it, they keep switching like who's got the best writers at the moment.
Right.
You know, and that keeps switching back and forth, I think. And you know, the hardest thing now is like when it's like, oh, these are the great Marvel books, but trying to get into them is so hard because one, a single comic costs like $7,
Right.
which is bonkers. And then if you have the apps, finding the comic is impossible, as it turns out.
It's a challenge, yeah.
Again, I think the DC app works better, but they're both, neither one is as user friendly as they should be, which is very tiresome.
Right.
You know, and but like with Marvel, Marvel has, to me, run into the problem that DC's had for a long time, where it's constantly about the past. Every story is about the past. And it's like, well, this is boring. I'm
No,
not
I think
into
that
this.
Marvel got out of that recently. I think they've been doing a really pretty good job about that in terms of moving forward the
I mean, Gwen
stories.
Stacy's coming back to life.
I mean but that's always going to happen. I mean, and it's not going to really be a deal. Like it's going to be a misdirect of some kind. I'm almost certain of it. I can't imagine they're actually bringing her back to life for real. They have definitely moved forward. I mean, the Krakoa era for X-Men and then the end of the Krakoa era, those are both forward momentum things. My problem,
those to me feel like the Grant Morrison era of X-Men, where it's like, wow, look at this, they're doing crazy, interesting stuff with the X-Men. Now that's over. We're going to go back to what it used to be. And
but they didn't actually post Krakoa. I actually like what they're doing post Krakoa. I mean, it's closer to what it used to be. It's closer to what it used to be for sure. But I think that Krakoa was a dead end. I don't think it could have lasted. I think the X-Men creating an ethno state was never a good idea. It was just always a bad idea. And I think that was built into the concept. I think it just didn't quite get fully explored. But now they have a bunch of X-Men books, and each book gets to do its own thing. So, like, is there a team of X-Men that are like on the run hiding? Yeah. Is there a team of X-Men who are super famous and they're TikTok stars? Yeah, they have that too. And so I like that. Like, you get like the books get to do whatever they want.
Yeah.
They don't have to be stuck inside one particular status quo. My problem with the current DC stuff is I go on the DC app and I go to read something, and every time I go, there's just been a new event that is going to change the status quo and become a perfect entry point for everything. And then I go read the entry point comic and I'm like, I have no idea what's happening. Who is this guy? Why is this guy dead? Like, what's going on? And so then I never make it. Like,
I mean, that's Marvel as well. Believe me.
No, yeah, 100%. Yeah.
Like, you can't just jump into comics anymore. You can't do it. And it's such a shame.
Marvel does do front page text things now.
That still doesn't work. It doesn't. It doesn't. Like, here's a quick catch up. It doesn't work. But you need thought balloons because I can read that whole thing, but that's not going to tell me what the characters are thinking and feeling and like what they've gone through. Like, that's reading a Wikipedia page.
Well, I will say that the two main Marvel books that I really read, I read the Spider-Man books and I read the X-Men books, and both of those are really pretty good a lot of the time with having characters talk about like what's going on in a way that it feels old-fashioned, where the characters are basically catching you up. And so I appreciate that. I find there's more of that. I mean, I think that comes and goes by writer a lot of the time. Some writers don't like doing that. Some writers do. But like, I mean, the new X-Men books, most of them feel modestly, I mean, you don't want to jump in on issue 6 half the time because it's like the third part of a 5-part
You don't want to jump
story.
in issue 1 because it's probably part 3 of a 4-part story.
Some of the X-Men books, the new ones, have been tough because they did start post Krakoa, and they did that thing that they love doing in comics a lot of the time. They kind of like jumped a little bit ahead enough that you're not sure if you're supposed to know what's going on or not. So like in one of the X-Men books, Cyclops is a team of X-Men up in Alaska, and they're living in an old Sentinel factory, and there's the town puts up with them because they destroyed a giant sentinel, a wild sentinel that was attacking the town. But like when I started reading the comic, I was like, am I supposed to know about this? And then like in issue 9, they're like, here's the flashback to what happened with the wild sentinel. I was like, okay, I guess I was not supposed to know about this. That was actually a thing that we were all supposed to be going, what's the story with that? But you never can tell when that's the case. So.
No. I always think about when Mark Waid was doing Daredevil, and it was literally like there was a four-part story going on, and part 2 ended, and at the end it said, to be continued in Daredevil #1. I'm like, I just read Daredevil number 34. What's going on? And they just restarted #1 for no reason in the middle of a storyline.
Incredible.
And I think about that sometimes, like, that's crazy to do.
Now Marvel seems to do that whenever they get a new creative team.
Yes.
That seems to be the Marvel way. Like, there's a new creative team, it's a #1.
Yeah.
It's not like tied into events as much anymore, like it used to be. Like, Spider-Man #1 launching out of this. Now it really feels like, okay, we got a new writer team. Here's a new #1. Which, I mean, actually makes more sense than coming out of an event or whatever.
Sure.
I don't like it, but it makes more logical sense to me.
Well, and then they also, and both companies love to do this too, where they keep starting at #1 again, and then when they hit some kind of milestone, they're like, "Oh, we're doing legacy numbering," and now it goes from issue 7 to issue 700. And you're like,
yeah, that happens to Spider-Man a lot. We're like, issue 47, next issue, in Amazing Spider-Man number 925, and you're like, wow.
Yeah, they're just not, helpful. And it's funny to look right now at comics, and the big sellers are the Ultimate books and the Absolute books. And the biggest thing that, like, anytime, like, I'll read things where they have like quotes from like comic shop owners and stuff, and like people are buying these because they know they're jumping at the beginning. They can understand what's happening.
Right.
Like, this is not hard to do.
With the Ultimate books, they're not, but that's okay.
No, but even like I'm behind, but I've been reading Ultimate Spider-Man, and you can pick up from #1, and it's not hard to figure out what's happening.
Ultimate Spider-Man is funny because it's disconnected from the main Ultimate Universe storyline that's happening, which is funny because it's the one that Hickman is writing, and he created the main universe storyline,
the entire thing. Yeah,
and the Ultimates is like deeply fucking involved in that. Like if you have not read all the previous miniseries, you have no clue what's going on in the Ultimates.
Okay,
but Spider-Man, there's just nothing. Like there's a little bit like when they run into Kingpin, and Kingpin has like a whole thing. He wants to become the boss of North America. There's
like the different secret kings of the
but like that, even like that, just when it's in Spider-Man, it just feels like comic book shit. Like Kingpin wants to be the secret crime kingpin of the world. Okay, I get that. When you get to like Ultimates, and it's like they go through a portal and they find the Hulk sitting in a Tibetan temple where he has a bunch of super Hulk kung fu masters with him. And it's awesome, by the way. Don't get me wrong. It's super fucking awesome. And everybody has like special punches, like, 10,000 mega punch Hiroshima bomb.
That's great.
It's like, like a nuclear reactor meltdown punch. And, but like, it's like one of those things you kind of got to know what's going on. Anyway, we should move on. We're taking forever here. What's our second letter?
Our second question is from Charles Villanueva. This might be a controversial question, but now that we have distance, was Brie Larson miscast as Captain Marvel? I don't think so. I think her first movie, she spends most of it not being Carol Danvers. She's confused by what her reality is. And then in the second, in the Marvels, I think she's better. She gets to play the character instead of playing somebody who's been brainwashed and stuff like that. And then her little bits in Endgame and Infinity War, I think, are great. They're great little bits.
I mean, I think the problem is that there is no character there.
Yeah.
They just didn't write anything for her. Like, that's the thing. Like, there's just not like anything that's like defining, you know what I mean? I think this is a problem. And I'm going to say this is going to make some people potentially mad. I think that's a problem with late period Captain Marvel in general, that post Kelly Sue DeConnick, Captain Marvel, I think, when she became really popular and like the Carol Corps came up, but I think there was something that went missing in her, that there was an edginess or something that just disappeared. And so she became much more generic to me. And the Marvel MCU version feels very generic to me. Like it's hard for me to watch those movies and say what, like, I can tell you like, how would Steve Rogers of the MCU react to this? But I could not tell you how Carol Danvers would. I have no idea. Yeah. And most of the other characters, I can tell you how they'd react. Like, that's the thing. They feel fairly defined in that way. But she does not. So.
Yeah, that's true. Right. I suppose.
I'm scratching my ear over here.
Yes, I suppose.
All right, what's our last one?
This one is from Dominic, and it's it's good timing on this. I posted a hot take on the Discord after watching Captain America: Brave New World, but thought it would be good to see your opinion. What your opinion is? I think getting rid of the MCU creative committee has hurt them in the long run. I know they were a huge pain in the ass for Feige and company, but there just seems to be a flailing going on right now. What do you think? What can course correct all of this? Unless you think there doesn't need to be course correcting, there definitely needs to be course correcting. I don't think the creative committee would have helped in the course in like the issues they're having. Like, in all honesty, one of the biggest issues, they're having two big issues right now. One, I do think that they try to do too many different storyline avenues at once, which we both of us, I think, at one point said like that's a good idea to do. Like, here's our street level major storyline, here's our cosmic storyline and stuff like that. I don't think that's worked out very well. And the other thing is the Kang of it all. You know, they're in a situation where if Kang had popped, and if what's his face
Jonathan Majors.
Jonathan Majors hadn't gotten into all his shit, they'd still be going down that road. They didn't change because Quantumania wasn't as big of a hit as they thought it would be. They changed because Jonathan Majors, they couldn't use him anymore. You know, so I think that that's one thing that's been messing them up. And then, yeah, just too many storylines without things connecting, feeling connected has hurt.
So I think that the creative committee was really, really bad. And I take that from having talked to people who make Marvel movies and having heard about their interactions with the creative committee. The creative committee had very bad notes. I mean, like epically bad notes, just terrible. And there were a couple people on the creative committee who were helpful, but a lot of them were just not. And they, again, I mean, like I don't have any off the top of my head, but there were some that I was told by somebody who has made movies for Marvel, made a director at Marvel. And I heard this story. I was like, Jesus Christ, that was the note. And like, you know, it really is the stuff that you would be blown away by. Like, you know, does Sam Wilson have to fly? Like that kind of, that level of like, what the fuck are you talking about? Like, why is he flying? Like, of course he's flying. It's a fucking Falcon. Like that's why. What? But that's the level. And that's not an exact one. So don't put this on some fucking Twitter account. But that's the level, that bad. And so the creative committee conceptually was a great idea, but they didn't have the right people on it. I think the problem is that post Endgame, they did the thing that we never expected them to do, which was take big swings at new characters. And everybody just kind of assumed we were going to have like Iron Man 11, you know, but that wasn't the direction they were going. And they chose these characters who ended up, a lot of them not connecting. And most painful, they chose a bunch of characters who maybe don't have so many iconic stories and villains.
Sure.
Like there's something about having, even if you're not exactly adapting it, having the general idea of a story that you know worked in the comics.
Yeah.
And then being able to take that, like Winter Soldier is a good example. Like that's not an adaptation of that storyline, but it has elements of it and it has the direction of it. And you know, these things.
Civil War.
Right.
It's vastly different than the comic.
But you have the basic outline of what's going on. And that really works, right? And so these, like Shang-Chi has no stories, just has no stories at all. Like there's nothing. And this is not a problem with Shang-Chi as an individual character, but it's tough when you're adapting him.
Yeah.
And so a lot of these characters just don't have breakout storylines. They don't have, and then the characters themselves haven't quite hit. And I think that they've become really stuck on meeting release dates, which has been a real challenge for them because they're releasing movies that just aren't that good. And I also think they have become a little too responsive to what is on the internet and stuff.
Sure.
I think that's a big mistake for them.
I don't disagree. And something else I think that I was thinking about this the other day, I think hit them is the Whedon and Gunn of it all. Because they used to have every script like, hey, you know, they would hand them off to Whedon, to Gunn, to other people that they were like, hey, we want your opinion on these things. They wouldn't rewrite the scripts or anything, but they would give notes and whatnot. And Whedon and Gunn and those people are gone. And I think that also affects it, right? Because at one point, James Gunn, they were like, he's going to run all our cosmic stuff. And then they're like, no, we fired him. And, you know, I think
Disney fired him. Marvel fired him. Yeah. That was not
Marvel. Yes. Yeah. But I do think that that's a big piece of it is they had these people that were like kind of helping oversee everything and were very talented writers, very talented storytellers, helping them fit these things together. And then losing that hurts. And then I do think they rely too much on their previous team to figure out all the action bits and be like, this is what we're doing in this beat, and that's how it goes. I don't think that's a good way to do story.
That's how every single action movie works. I mean, I'm not saying it's good, but I'm saying that this is not a Marvel problem. That's a blockbuster problem.
But I think they've come to rely on it too much.
They always have. From the very beginning.
Let me explain. What I'm saying is when you've hit 35 movies and you have the same previous team doing the action for every movie, none of the action is exciting anymore because everything we've seen it's bland, it's boring.
The thing is that 13th floor, who does most of the previs, does most of the previs for everybody. I mean, like it's like actually crazy, but like there's not that many previs companies. And 13th floor,
I thought Marvel had their own previs team.
No, they work with 13th floor. And they have people that liaise with them probably exclusively, but like, and then when they're doing like development and stuff like that, but every blockbuster has the previs, and it's a lot of the same companies that do the previs for every single movie. And it's a big problem industry wide. It's not just them. You're looking it up, right?
Because I could have sworn in the book they said that Marvel has their own in-house previs team.
That is, I mean, if you look in the credits, they often have 13th floor credited. So. And that's like the big previs company. I've known people. Some of my earliest scoops came from people working at 13th floor, because they get everything, you know, and they're making the movie before the movie's being made. So yeah, what are you looking up? Tell us, because there's a lot of people listening to this, and your silence is.
I'm looking.
Tell us what you're searching.
What company did you say it was?
13th floor.
According to this, it's third floor.
Is it third floor? Third floor, maybe. Then okay, fine. Yeah.
Oh, that's 2020. Maybe they got more floors. I don't know.
I thought it was 13th floor, but okay. Maybe it's third floor. My brain doesn't work the way that it used to.
Yeah.
I don't have all this information at my fingertips.
I know. I thought that they had like an in-house team that was doing all that stuff.
No. But that's like an industry-wide problem. It's not just them. And so I agree that that's a problem, but I don't think that that's any more of a problem than it is for almost any. I mean, only like James Cameron doesn't have that problem. You know what I mean? Like, but most of the time, if you're watching a big blockbuster movie, half of the fight stuff or the action stuff was pre-vised, maybe even before they had a finished script.
Yeah. I mean, that's like one of Gunn's things with the Guardians movies is he at least claims like, no, the pre-vis didn't do anything until I had a script. And then they followed my script and they followed my storyboards. Right. So I think that helped make his stuff stand out a bit more.
I think the other problem with Marvel now, and I think there's an article about this, and I actually agree with it, is that they're doing too much stuff, and that means Kevin Feige can't be quality control. And I think Kevin Feige is really good at his job.
Yes.
And I think that he has been really good at his job. And I think that when you don't have Kevin Feige able to be present, I think that sometimes things fall a little bit apart.
Sure.
He's also getting old too.
He's 51. He's not that old.
But he's been doing this for 20 something years on just this universe. Do you know what I mean? Like that's the thing. Like that's not that he's an old man, but like he's been doing this job for a long time.
Yeah. Let me ask you this. I brought this up on the Discord and I do believe it, but maybe you'll have a different look and more knowledge. I feel like if Fantastic Four underperforms or straight out bombs, there will be higher ups, not Feige himself, but there will be higher ups at Marvel who are let go at that point.
Oh, if Fantastic Four bombs, you're going to see a complete restructuring of Marvel because I mean, like, I can't imagine. I mean, they might be able to argue, leave us alone until Doomsday, but like, I can't imagine that Disney is going to be like, wait, because there's been like the buzz has been negative, the box office has been down, the TV shows aren't getting the ratings that they want them to get, and Fantastic Four is a big one. They're putting a lot on it. I would not be surprised if Fantastic Four failing is a watershed moment for the MCU and for the MCU, the people that work in Marvel. I would not be surprised. Yeah. And by the way, ever since they fired Victoria Alonso, it has felt like Marvel is on the verge of kind of falling apart anyway, internally. Nate Moore leaving feels like a big deal. So I'm kind of curious to see what happens. Nate Moore leaving, I said this before on the show, Nate Moore leaving really was shocking to me because I truly believe that thought Nate Moore was going to become the new Feige. I thought Feige was going to step down and Nate Moore was going to take over.
Yeah.
And I thought they were like actually grooming him to do that. And he went and became independent. So that doesn't mean he can't come back. Like if Feige's like, hey, I'm going and we really need you. that's actually a good position for him to be in to negotiate a good deal. But like I said, once they fired Victoria Alonso and it was like ugly, and it was the result of a lot of years of ugliness behind the scenes, it felt like something had risen to the surface that had been kept successfully down.
Yeah.
And the whole dynamic within the company changed, it feels like, from where I'm sitting. So, yeah.
Who knows?
All right. Those are our letters. Where can people send their emails to us?
They can send them to cinema or ask.cinema.sanga@gmail.com.
So, and let us know in the subject line what show it's for. That way we read it on the show that you actually listen to, as opposed to maybe a show that you don't listen to. All right. Are you ready to move forward and talk about the next 3 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man?
I am.
All right. Let's do it. Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man, episodes 6, 7, and 8, Duel with the Devil, Scorpion Rising, and let me see here, Tangled Web. Those are our episodes today. We got a lot to talk about. We are once again going to try to speed through as much of this as possible. We're going to try to be a little bit less specific because we're going to have a lot to say, I suspect, right?
Probably, yeah.
So our Duel with the Devil opens. Peter and Nico are in class, and Lonnie is not there because Lonnie is having a hard time. He's been getting kicked off the football team. He's been absent a bunch, and he is no longer Pearl's lab partner. So at some point in these 3 episodes,
no longer Peter's lab partner.
Sorry. So at some point in these 3 episodes, Peter's going to get teamed up with Pearl to be lab partners. So that's going to be sort of the gist of that storyline. These episodes, this episode has sort of like, we're kind of cresting the Lonnie hill here,
Yeah.
where the change from Lonnie being a good guy to kind of being all in on the gang is happening. So I hate to do, I do this all the time, but like on the Discord, there was a big discussion like, boy, Lonnie really decided to get all in on that gang pretty fast. And I think that Lonnie is a team guy. That was established. He's a football team guy. And his mindset is team. And so when he leaves his team to join a new team, he's all in. That's just the deal. Like, he's one of those guys, like if he was in the majors and he got drafted to a new city, he would be all about that new city the day he shows up, because that's the kind of guy that he is. He believes in supporting the team fully.
I think also, let's not forget that they sent him to get burritos. And then they came back and was like, hey, that was like the bad guy's place, like our enemy's place. And they're like, yeah, now they know your face. Now they know who your family is.
I mean, that too, that does. But Lonnie seems less angry. He's like aggravated, but he kind of is into it too. And again, I think it's because he's just a big team guy. Like, he's got after that happened, after that first fight with the Scorpions where he got stabbed, he's now part of the gang. And so they treat him like family now. And I think that he's really susceptible to that. Again, part of the storyline is that his brother is a little mad about this. His brother is like, Jesus, man. Like,
his brother's like, I'm supposed to be the screw up.
I'm the screw up. Like, you're ruining my fucking life, bro. Like, I wanted to get he's like, I wanted to get out of your shadow, and now you're doing the thing that I was trying to get out of your shadow with. Like, I can't win with you.
Yeah.
So Peter is trying to get Nico to come hang out with him and Harry. They did the movies, and Nico was not happy about it, and he's trying to make everybody be friends. And he argues that the transitive property indicates that Nico should like Harry because Nico likes Peter, and Peter likes Harry, so therefore Harry should like Nico, and back and forth. And so they go to watch movies at Peter's house.
Yes. And May goes off to get laid.
That does seem to be the case.
She said, she walks out, she's like, don't wait up. She's like,
So they go watch some movies. One of them was Zaniac.
Yes.
Which is from Loki.
Yep.
Remember that in Loki? I think Loki season 2, right? Where Zaniac comes in.
Yeah, that's what's his face is the star of that, right?
Yeah, he goes and he leaves the time
TVA
to be an actor. Yeah. I thought that was a nice little touch. And there's Tomb Buster as well. And they end up watching Predator. Which
has no cover.
Which, it's funny because it has no cover, and it's like obviously taped off TV or something.
Yeah.
I love the fact that he brings out the VHS tapes, and they're like, "Wow, what the hell is this?" And they're trying to figure out how to use the VCR, and they can't. And at one point, the thing opens up, and Harry's like, oh my God, it almost bit off Nico's finger.
Yeah.
I really enjoyed all that.
There are 3 moments in this episode that made me very concerned for Harry and
Yeah.
how intelligent he is.
Yeah.
And this is the first one, is when he's never seen or eaten raisins before. I find that very hard to believe.
Funny. It does not make any sense, but it is very funny. Like, what kind of caviar is this?
Yeah.
Like,
It's
raisins and celery, bro.
Huh? I can buy that he's never had ants on a log. I guess. Sure. It seems a little weird, but sure. But that he doesn't even know what a raisin is.
Doesn't know what a raisin is.
I was like, are raisins like poor people food? And I didn't know that. I would imagine rich people have raisins.
I actually think it might not. It might be poor people food.
I don't know.
I don't know. Also, I feel like maybe have raisins become less culturally dominant than they used to be?
Perhaps. But
I mean, I don't hear about raisins as much.
No, I mean, I definitely thought about that the other day. I was like, man, when I was a kid, raisins were everywhere. It was like, you got to have raisins. You got to have a box of raisins.
Raisins, yeah.
You never know. I'm looking up to see if there's any like raisins, classy dessert.
There definitely are desserts that have raisins on them or whatever. But he also just might not know what's on his desserts, you know. But also, it's just obviously a joke. And so...
like he's never had like cinnamon raisin bread? Come on. A raisin bagel? He lives in New York.
I mean, it does seem strange.
It's insane to me.
It seems strange. They start playing. They do what looks like a fun thing where they try to play every single game that Peter has in the house at once.
Yes. Yeah, that was
I
fun.
really like that. That was like really cute and like the kind of thing.
I like the way they play it because at first it seems like they're doing like legally not any game until like they pan out and you can see all the different boards out and it'd be fun to play every game.
Yeah, it's really fun. So they're kind of starting to get along. Although I would not be able to handle playing board games while watching Predator. Like you can't do both. Like it's just not right. It's just not right. And Peter gets a phone call. And he gets a phone call from Norman Osborn, and somebody's broken into Oscorp. And so he needs Peter to go check it out. He's like, I'm hanging out with my friends. And he's like, you got to go do it. And Peter, who in this television show remains the worst at lying, just unbelievably bad at lying. It's like, hey guys, we're out of soda. I have to go to the store to get soda.
Yeah.
And so Nico and Harry, this is so familiar to me. This has happened to me 100 times where like your friend invites you over to hang out with somebody else that's their friend, and then they have to like leave the room or something, and you're like stuck with the new friend and you're uncomfortable, and both of them like, oh, I'll go with you, and Peter's like, no, you guys just stay here. And there's this really deep uncomfortable moment. And I was like, oh, that is so true. That I've had that happen to me so many times. So while Peter's gone, they do begin to talk, and they start bonding over tarot. And Nico's really excited because Harry's really into spirituality. He's into tarot. He has lapis lazuli earrings. And the storyline goes that eventually she starts doing a reading for Harry, and she puts down I think the devil is what she puts down.
Definitely Mephisto, yeah.
And it's definitely Mephisto on the card, yeah. Not sure if that's I think it's just a little.
I think it's just for fun.
It's not meaningful.
No.
But he's like, okay, now do I pull a card and try to trump that? And she's
like, no. This is the second time where I feel like he's not very smart. He says, now I have to find the same card, right? He thinks they're playing Guess Who. Or like one of those like ones where it's like, oh, you got to match the cards and remember where they are. Like he's not very smart.
And Nico gets pretty mad because he says he's into tarot cards aesthetically.
Yes.
Which is the truest shit. Like, I gotta tell you, man, that is like so true.
99% of people that have tarot cards.
Yeah. And she's like, she's really into it, and she kind of like is not happy about it. So one of the things before Peter goes away, they all begin to bond a little bit over all not having moms.
Yes.
Each of them does not have a mom.
I do like that because Peter, like Harry, thinks that May is Peter's mom, which is not one of his stupid things. Because
it makes perfect sense. And then the way that Peter responds to it is like, dude, this just does not seem crazy. Like if it was the old Aunt May, I might say, yeah, that's weird.
Sure.
But this is young hot Aunt May. Of course she's his mom. Like, yeah.
And then Harry says, "Oh, I lost my mom too." And then Peter's like, and Nico's in a foster home, and he's like, huh? And Nico's like, this is a really weird way to try to make us all bond. And it is. Like, the way Peter's going about it is very uncomfortable.
He's very awkward. I really like
Yeah.
this Peter a lot. I really, really do. There's also a scene that we skipped, which is that I think it's not important in these 3 episodes, but I suspect it's going to be important, which is that Peter catches Jean Cocteau trying to sneak into Norman Osborn's office.
Yeah, that's got to mean something, right?
That's right, but does not come back in these 3 episodes.
No. We also missed that what's his name? Norman. Is that a benefit for
that was
Lagos?
My next. Yeah, I was going to bring it there. They're the Lagos benefit. That's the country that they blow up in the beginning of Civil War. And Thaddeus Thunderbolt Ross is there.
And also in the background, you hear the woman say, our biggest sponsors, Norman Osborn, Oscorp, and Eleanor Bishop of Bishop Securities, which is Kate Bishop's mom.
Oh, that's cool.
Yeah.
So Ross shows up and Osborn's like, hey, happy to support you guys. And Osborn has its facilities here available for you to find any rogue superhuman. But I want to let you know that I have a superhuman on the payroll. And Ross is like, well, you're going to have to register him. He's like, oh, no, I did the paperwork already. It's my security guy, John Gallo. And I thought that was really interesting that Norman is smart enough. I mean, obviously smart, but like he's being calculating in that way. It's kind of fascinating to me. I
do kind of wish that Thunderbolt Ross was like, that guy's clearly not Spider-Man.
he's Oh my God. So Peter goes to Oscorp to check out this break-in. He finds a knocked out security guard. He finds a big hole cut in the window. And it turns out that it's Daredevil. He follows Daredevil out, and it's Daredevil in the black costume, and he's up on the roof, and it's Charlie Cox playing Daredevil.
It is.
Charlie Cox happy to do Daredevil wherever he possibly can.
Sure, why not? Paycheck is a paycheck.
Paycheck is a paycheck, baby. And he's kind of fun here. This is not the Netflix Daredevil.
No, this is the She-Hulk Daredevil.
This is the She-Hulk, a.k.a. some of the comic book Daredevil.
Yes.
He's funny. And they have a fight. They have a classic Marvel superheroes fighting. It's a great fight.
Yeah.
This continues.
This is how good the fight is that Spider-Man says to Daredevil, this is like an all-time top 5 superhero fight, isn't it? And Daredevil's like, yeah, maybe. And I didn't get annoyed that they did that. Because like, yeah, this is a really good fight. Well, in the 5, but this is a good fight.
Yeah, it's a good fight. And Peter's not very good, and Daredevil obviously is way better. And they do make one. They make a blind joke, don't they?
They make a couple of blind jokes.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But so Daredevil is like kind of taking it easy on the kid a little bit. But eventually they end up fighting on helicopter blades. It is so fucking cool. It is so cool. It's really well animated. It's just neat looking. Yeah. And they have like a lot of banter back and forth. It's really delightful. And the relationship between Spider-Man and Daredevil is a really great relationship in the comics. And you kind of get the beginning of that here. Yeah. And I'm excited for Daredevil to come back, or for Matt Murdock to show up, because canonically Matt Murdock figures out that Peter Parker's Spider-Man because he compares their heartbeats and he knows it's the same heartbeat. And so
I do have one problem with this fight.
What's that?
Is that Peter instantly is like, oh, you're like a devil. I would not look at that costume and be like, that guy's a devil.
Yeah, I know, got the horns on his head though, so I guess that's the thing he's going for.
I guess.
It's funny. I mean, also we know he's Daredevil. I mean, traditionally, if he's in the red costume, he looks more devilish than here. But yeah, I mean, I don't disagree. I don't disagree. So Daredevil is like, listen, kid, you're defending Oscorp, but you don't know what's actually happening in here. And he ends up knocking Peter out and taking off. And Peter wakes up, Norman's there, and Norman begins talking about Otto Octavius. He's big mad about Otto Octavius.
Does not like him.
He says that so we have like a little bit of like not a flashback, but we see an old photo of them as young guys. And he says, Otto thinks that Osborn stole all his work, basically. And it's probably true.
Yeah.
My assumption is it's true, and that Norman doesn't think that he stole it because he's the guy paying for it. So therefore it's an Elon Musk thing. Like, well, I didn't invent it, but it happened on my dime. So therefore it's mine.
I have a feeling that Norman is a darker character than what we've seen so far.
Oh, I'm sure he is.
Yeah.
But I mean, like, in terms of just like, as a rich guy who runs a tech firm, he doesn't think twice about taking credit for everything Otto did, because he thinks that's the deal. That's just the way it works.
Just like Tony
So
Stark.
he thinks that Otto sent Daredevil. That's what he thinks must have been happening. That Daredevil, and Peter's like, that doesn't make any sense because everybody that I have met that has been involved with Otto Octavius, they have like a little device, and this guy had no device. He's just like really good. And Norman's like, well, he fucking hired a guy who's good at his job for once. Like and that is actually like a pretty good assumption. Like, well, maybe he's hired a good guy. Like he knows what he's doing. And so he's like, I'm gonna fucking find Otto, and we're gonna put an end to this shit right away. Back at the house, as Peter's coming back, Harry opens his big fat mouth.
Yep.
Harry opens his big fat mouth and is like, hey, you know Peter's big secret. I know Peter's big secret. And Nico's like, well, what big secret? And he goes, that he's Spider-Man. And she does not know this. And she's really fucking furious. And she doesn't believe it at first. But then when Peter comes busting in the door, she opens up his backpack and finds the Spider-Man mask. And he has no sodas. He says they were sold out of sodas.
Yeah, he's just got a baggie of ice.
Which is what he actually got from Norman Osborn to put the lump on his head from the fight.
Yeah.
And she is really mad. And I get it because he did not tell her. She's his best friend and he kept it a secret. And he told, as far as she knows, he told Harry Osborn, this dipshit kid. And I like when Peter walks into the fucking apartment and Harry's sitting on the couch and he's hugging that pillow because he knows he's in trouble. It's so good, man. I loved it very much.
Yeah, that was good.
And then the episode ends with us seeing Doc Ock turning Matt Gargan into the Scorpion.
Well, we missed some stuff. We missed that Lonnie is being tailed by one of the Scorpion's people.
By Camilla Black, right?
By Camilla Black. And then
she follows him to find out where the base is.
And in the base, Lonnie's there. And Don is like, you can stay here tonight if it'll make you feel safer. And I really wanted Lonnie to be like, no, they're going to go after my family. That's what you told me. So I shouldn't stay here. I should make sure my family is safe. But he's not. He's like, yeah, I'll hang out here. Cool. And that kind of bummed me out.
I mean, I think the belief is they don't go for the family first. Do you know what I mean? Like the first order of business is to kill the guys. And if they have to kill the family to get it, to like get them to come out or to find them or whatever, they will. But my thought about how gang life works is that you don't go for the family first.
But I would feel like, okay, he's in there. We can't get in there. We'll go get his family and that'll make him come out.
Yeah, but I feel like isn't Big Don making it seem like they're just going to have a big fight and they're just all getting ready for a big fight?
Yeah.
Big Don doesn't seem nervous. Like he thinks that this is just business as usual. This is how gang fights work.
Yeah.
So that's why I think Lonnie might be just responding to how Big Don's like, well, we'll just hang out here. And then the next episode, they're like getting a fucking arsenal together. Yeah. So they're getting ready for.
I think it's this episode where Big Don yells at his crew for making fun of Lonnie for saying he loves his mom.
Yeah.
I like that.
I like that too. I liked it very much. It was really, really good.
Nothing wrong saying you love your mom.
So the next episode, we have Peter still trying to make Nico forgive him. It's not really working out. And Andre, Lonnie's brother, texts Pearl and basically drops the info. Like, so here's the deal. Lonnie is now a gangster. So the gang is getting ready for a big fight. They got automatic weapons. They got all kinds of shit, and they are ready for the Scorpions to come and like fucking wreak havoc. And they're ready to kill guys, is what it really seems.
Yeah, they got guns and stuff. Yeah.
So Peter goes to
that one guy. Lonnie looks over at that one guy. The guy holds up a gun and goes, "Hey, hey!" It's like
it's really good.
He's the Babu Frick of gang members.
Peter goes to see Norman Osborn, and Norman's like obsessed with Otto Octavius now. Yep. And we have a bit here. He's talking about Otto, and they figure out that he's using gamma radiation. That's the thing that Peter comes up with. All this just sounds like nonsense to me, but
sure, yeah,
it's comic book nonsense. There's a bit where in this conversation, Norman Osborn is like, "What is he doing? Harnessing the power of the sun?"
No, that's Peter says maybe it's solar, and he's like, Otto Octavius could not harness the power of the sun.
That's the Spider-Man 2 reference.
One thing with all these references, there's one thing that bummed me out is when Peter comes into Harry's or Norman's office, and we've seen this before. Norman says like activate security protocol, and like all the doors lock and the windows come down. I wish it had more of like the Spider-Man and Its Amazing Friends feel to it, where like pictures on the wall flip over and now they've got like monitors and stuff. Like, because I always love that in Spider-Man and His Amazing Friends, that their entire apartment is jacked out like that somehow.
They find gamma radiation signatures across the island of Manhattan, and this is how they're going to track Otto down. And so Norman sends Spider-Man out to go track down these signatures. The storyline with Harry and Nico, we'll just get this out of the way up here, the whole thing. They go for pizza, and Harry's trying to convince Nico to forgive Peter, and she's not really willing to do it. And at some point, they end up in the car, and he decides he's going to teach her how to drive a car.
Yeah.
And she's very bad at it. But then a lady pulls up and starts making fun of them in the car, and Nico loses her shit, and she's like, "Oh, let's fucking race."
Yeah.
And they do race, and two things happen. One, they put it into track mode, so like the jets come on. Also, and Harry's like, "You did really great driving." It's a straightaway. I mean, she has to dodge one car, but it's a straightaway. So that happens, and then at one point, she also seems to use her necklace.
Oh, she definitively uses her necklace, and she also talks to it earlier.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So we're setting that up here, which is interesting because that's Nico is a superhero in the comics and in the other cartoons and live action shows and shit like that. So they end up with winning the race, and they're kind of like buddies now. Like it's like kind of a nice little beat. Like they're like friends, and he takes her home. I didn't know, were they going for like a romance thing here? Like,
I got the feeling that like there's some makeout feelings between them.
That was what I was trying to
because they're
figure
sitting
out.
on the stoop and they're both laughing and they look at each other and then they get real nervous.
Yeah. And
that felt like makeout.
Yeah, it had that vibe, right? And so, I mean, I like that as a story beat. Like that's a good Spider-Man story. Like from going from his friend being mad that Peter's leaving her out to maybe Peter being mad that she's hooking up with his other friend and leaving him out. Like I kind of that's a pretty good.
Especially like because her whole thing, she says in that scene, she's like, Peter not telling me this, you know, he's keeping a secret from me, and that hurts, that, you know, that makes me feel bad, and blah 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 blah. She's got fucking magic power. She hasn't told Peter.
And now does she know? That's the big question.
No. When they're on the roof having the pizza, she's standing there, and he's like, "We should really talk about this." And she looks down at her necklace or at her pendant and goes, "Okay, I'll listen to what he has to say." Which tells me that she's hearing the pendant talking to her. You know.
Yeah, that's a good point. Yeah. I kind of just took it as her talking to herself, but yeah, I think you're right.
I think she's in communication with the pendant. Yeah. So
that does make sense.
I mean, she definitely, obviously, and she brings it up too. She has abandonment issues, right? Her parents, as far as we know, they abandoned her.
Right.
So she has issues with that, which is why Peter keeping a secret from her. She does say, like, Peter keeps blowing me off. He blew her off once, the party. That was it. You know, he showed up for the movie. He just brought somebody else with him.
I think we're supposed to sort of understand maybe there's other times that this has happened. We're not seeing every day of their lives.
No, yeah, but they should have maybe connected that a bit more, maybe. I don't know. But I mean, it's not a huge deal. She has abandonment issues, understandable abandonment issues. She feels like Peter not telling her the stuff and is leading to him abandoning and having a new friend who's a rich guy. She's worried about being left behind. It all makes sense. It all fits. I don't have an issue with any of that. But we'll see. I can see it going from her being angry at Peter for keeping secrets to her and Harry having secrets and Peter getting angry. Is what that all is.
Pearl goes to the 110th street gang hideout to talk to Lonnie, and Lonnie's like, "No, this is where I am now. This is my life, yada yada yada." And then this whole conversation gets derailed because Matt Gargan busts in through the wall, and he is the Scorpion. He busts in the wall, and the dust from the wall hangs there for a very long time.
Very long time. Yes,
he has quite the dramatic entrance.
He just stands there getting shot at. I would personally, if I was him, not do that.
It seems like his armor is bulletproof.
His armor is bulletproof, but he has no armor on his arms, legs, or head.
Good point.
So it's a little dangerous. You know, it's a little dangerous, I think.
Scorpion attacks, and he kills guys, right? Like he straight up kills guys. Yeah. He fucks shit up so bad. It is really violent.
It's
and
wild.
Pearl and Lonnie are like cowering in a corner because fucking Mac is going crazy and he's going to come kill them. Meanwhile, Spider-Man is following these gamma radiation signals, and Norman is just like not even paying attention to it anymore. He's like so deeply involved in wanting to find Otto. And Peter sees smoke in the distance that's coming from one of the gamma radiation signals. He goes, that's got to be it.
One thing I like, he's like, I need help tracking this. And I really want Norman to be like, hey, you see all those different damage spots all over the city where there's like slashes through the buildings and people freaking out? Follow the path, man. That's clearly Scorpion headed that way and just destroying stuff along the path.
I mean, but he also feeds the thing into Peter's mask so he can see. That's really video gamey, like where the guy in your headset is like, okay, I'm going to download into your goggles.
No, this whole bit is straight out of the Spider-Man video games.
Yeah.
I'm not complaining.
Yeah, no, I think it works really well. Peter shows up just in time before Gargan is going to kill Lonnie and Pearl. And he begins fighting with Mac Gargan, and it does a bunch of stuff like throw a fucking safe on him. Mac Gargan's pretty tough though, but however, Peter is eventually, after he gets beat a lot, he manages to web up Gargan. He gets the Scorpion all webbed up, and he's like, "Whew, finally did it." The whole time he's asking Osborn for help, but Osborn's not paying attention.
Yeah,
he's actually taking the earpiece out. So he's got him all tied up, and he goes, "Okay, great." Perfect timing because I'm all out of web fluid. This used the last of my web fluid. And then, Matt Gargan overloads the suit, and it begins melting onto his body, but it also gives him the ability to rip the webs apart. And this is not unreasonable in terms of like the canonical character. J. Jonah Jameson created the Scorpion originally.
Yes.
And he ends up fused with the tail for a while. The Rhino ends up fused inside his suit. Like that's a very common problem for these guys back then. So Norman's otherwise occupied. Peter, who's already gotten really badly beat up, now has no webs. And this episode really shows that he really relies on the webs. Like that's his number one thing. And, Scorpion just starts beating the shit out of him. Just wrecks him. And then suddenly, out of nowhere, in a moment that made me legitimately gasp out loud, he fucking just stabs Peter in the back and just pierces him all the way through.
Yeah.
And
it's wild.
It is wild. So he is like beating Peter so badly that his mask opens up. He has stabbed him through the chest. And Peter's like weakly on the radio, like, please, Mr. Osborn, I'm being killed now.
It's great because Peter's getting the crap kicked out of him. And Osborn's sitting there looking for Otto. And then his tablet lights up all red. And he's like, what the hell? And he's like, Peter, it says here your suit's been punctured. That's impossible. And Peter's like, I'm dying.
It's so good. Yeah. It's so good. So Osborn's like, Peter, wait right there. And then a goblin glider comes down from the sky. And the goblin glider is able to take out Scorpion briefly. And he's like, Peter, get on the glider. And it flies him away. And in the aftermath, the warehouse blows up behind them. Scorpion is obviously not dead, but it's a pretty classic way to leave off a villain inside an exploding warehouse. Like that's just pretty classic. And it is bad. We had talked about this in person. This is a brutal episode of a children's cartoon.
Well, I told you when we discussed this, last week I watched all 3 episodes together. With these 3, I watched the first one, then I watched the second one. When this one ended, I was like, I can't. I was like, I had to walk away. I was like, that was too intense. That was too much.
So intense. And I think what's really great is that the storyline with Nico and Lonnie is so lighthearted.
Yeah.
And that's like the first half of the episode that you're kind of like, okay, this is yet another episode of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. And Peter's going to like have a hard time, but whatever. It's a Scorpion. It's not that big a deal. And then the Scorpion just fucking demolishes him.
Not even just the first half of the episode. The series
is
a pretty
it's never been this heavy.
Around and hurt, but like he instantly gets right back up. And he's like, hey, I'm Spider-Man, blah, 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 blah. There was no sense of like, oh, this is going to be an actual dangerous thing kind of deal.
Right. Yeah. And I think that's actually the right tone. I think that's a Spider-Man comic tone. Like a lot
Yeah.
of issues are not that heavy, and then all of a sudden, the heaviest fucking thing you've ever experienced happens in a Spider-Man comic.
Yeah.
All of a sudden, Spider-Man accidentally kills his own girlfriend when she's falling off the Brooklyn Bridge.
Exactly.
Like that's the deal, and this really captures that very nicely. But I also like that they made Scorpion a legitimate threat.
Yes.
Because he is not he's one of those characters who's essentially a joke at this point.
Yeah.
He's been around forever and he's just got a big dumb tail, and that's like his whole thing. And Spider-Man has beat so many bigger villains at this point that
who are Spider-Man's big villains now?
It's all the same villains. They keep bringing them back.
But like I mean, you know, the Beetle. That's not going to sell a comic. Like,
well, the Beetle is now Tombstone's daughter.
Okay.
So she's not really fighting the Beetle, but like there's a Beetle that's running around, and she's marrying, what's his name's son? The deputy editor of the Daily Bugle,
Robbie
Robertson's son, Randy.
Okay.
So she's like in love with him. They were having a wedding, and then it got busted up by every single gangster in New York City. It was a pretty good comic, actually. It was really good.
That's very old school Spider-Man right there.
No, it's really, really good. Like, and it's really great because all the gangsters come to the wedding because Tombstone is kind of like the head gangster now, and he goes to the other gangsters like, you know, why have none of you RSVP'd to the wedding? And they're like, well, we thought it would not make sense for us to go to your daughter's wedding because we're all well-known gangsters. And he's like, no, you're going to show up and show respect. So they go to have this wedding in the park, and then this other guy comes and busts it up and starts opening fire, and everybody runs out. And in the process, Madame Mask gets into her limo to drive away, and the limo blows up.
Oh.
And somebody's like, just Hammerhead is like, Hammerhead, did you make this whole thing happen? He's like, no, this isn't me, but Madame Mask's bomb, that was me. And I like that, like he had like a bomb ready to go at the wedding anyway, but then the wedding got busted up by somebody else. I think that's really great.
That is good.
But there's been like a bunch of Dr. Octopus stuff. Dr. Octopus is still a going concern.
But like Scorpion, Rhino, Beetle
show up every now and again, yeah.
But they're not major problems, right? They're not big deals anymore, right? Like, is there a Sinister Six anymore? Do they still do that?
They did a Sinister Six story for one of the anniversary issues recently. So they do it every now and again. I mean, you know,
are there still like 30 goblins running around?
There's a lot of goblins. I'm reading a story now. It's about a year. I'm about a year and a half behind on Amazing Spider-Man. Kraven's son is running around as Kraven the Hunter, and he is having an affair with this psychiatrist who became Queen Goblin when the Sin Eater came back. And the Sin Eater is different though now. The Sin Eater actually takes your sins. Okay. And he took all of Norman Osborn's sins and he put them into this therapist, and she became the Queen Goblin. And then Kraven has this spear that he wants to put the sins back into Norman Osborn and turn him back into the Green Goblin. Like, it's a very ongoing concern of like, is Norman going to lose his fucking mind? And then Peter jumps in between them, and Peter gets stabbed in the back with the spear, and now he has all of Norman Osborn's sins go into him, and he becomes evil Spider-Man. I mean, it's pretty good. I'm into that. So yeah, and they keep bringing those characters back. You know, it's not about like them as big threats as opposed to like how they are interacting. It's closer to like some of the Flash's Rogues Gallery. If they stayed bad guys, it isn't that they're super dangerous. They're often very inconvenient.
Yeah,
is often, when they are dangerous, it's often accidental, or like they weren't coming for Spider-Man there. They were coming from Norman, and Spider-Man gets caught up in the middle of it.
Yeah.
So that's
to note, the Flash's Rogues Gallery, they're still evil. They're still bad guys. The thing with them is they're bank robber bad guys. And when somebody comes in to destroy the city, they're like, no. That's not going to work out for us. That's when they become heroic, is only in periods like that, where it's like, oh, somebody wants to blow up the world. That's not going to work out for us. We got to help out with that. But like, they are still out there like, let's go rob a bank. Like, they still do that stuff, which is what I love about them.
A lot of the Sinister Six level villains are still those guys, or they have their original motivation still. Kraven still just wants to kill people to prove he's cool.
Yeah.
Doc Ock is like the most world ending out of them, but that's like Doc Ock. Like, that just makes sense. He's a megalomaniacal jerk off, right? But most of them have fairly small
Yeah.
you know. And Spider-Man does like have a lot of crime stuff that he did, a lot of crime lord stuff. There's a new character in the comics these days called White Rabbit, and it's a woman it's kind of like they're trying to do their own Harley Quinn, basically.
Okay.
And it's a woman dressed in like a Zatanna-like outfit, and has rabbit ears, and she's always carrying a carrot, and she kind of like has like a Bugs Bunny attitude, but she's also a psychopathic murderer. And she may or may not have the hots for Black Cat.
Okay.
So that's anyway. There's a really good issue where Peter and Felicia go on a weekend getaway, and it turns out that the weekend getaway is a retreat for a bunch of tech guys who have gotten their hands on Sinister Six tech, and they're going to cosplay as the Sinister Six for the weekend, except that one of them gets killed in the process, and then it becomes like a whole thing. It's like it's very fun. Yeah, it's very fun.
There's a great bit in the Mark Waid Daredevil run where Daredevil's working with Black Cat, and they end up making out, and then it cuts to a shot of Spider-Man, who just happens to be like nearby and sees them and goes, and Spider-Man's like, "This might be my super villain's origin." I've always loved that. That he just sees them making out. He's like, "What the hell?"
There's a really good. So Peter's with Felicia, and then she breaks up with him. And he's like, "What happened?" And she goes, "Well, you stopped telling me to be a good person." Like, she's like, "Our relationship is based on that. And once you stop doing that, it's just not interesting to me anymore." And Peter's like, "Okay, I get it." Which is like, actually, I like their relationship. I would love to see her in the movies. I would love to see her.
It's crazy that she's never shown up in the movies. It is really wild to me, because she is a great character. The Peter, Felicia, MJ triangle is the most interesting of Peter's triangles to me.
Yeah, I agree.
So I'm really shocked that she's never made it into the movie.
Much. All right, Tangle Web opens with Spider-Man in the Oscorp hospital.
He's just a kid.
It's just a kid, and I think the big takeaway in this scene is they take his blood. He doesn't want them to take his blood, but they do. That's obviously going to come back. We're going to get a Clone Saga, aren't
we? Possibly Clone Saga. Possibly this is how Norman will get powers. Is figure out what's in Peter's blood and use that to get his goblin powers. You know, that kind of deal.
Could be. Yeah.
Hopefully not Clone Saga, because there's no need for that.
You maybe could do a good job with it. I don't think that there's...
Yeah, every like 7 years, someone's like, "We can do a good job with the Clone Saga." No one's done a good job with the Clone Saga. It's a bad idea. It's just a bad idea. Let it go.
People like Ben Reilly. What can I say?
Yeah, that's fine. You got him. That's it. And people don't like him enough for him to like ever like last in a comic book for very long. So don't worry about it.
So Peter's coming in and out of consciousness. He wakes up the next day. His mask is off. I don't know how this works, but Norman's like, "I'm the only one who saw your face." I'm like, that doesn't make any sense to me.
No.
Norman Osborn's take, though, is not, "Oh my God, you're a 15-year-old boy and you almost died." It's like, you gotta fucking hit these guys harder. Like, he's not wrong per se, but it is a weird fucking takeaway from the adult in this situation that it's like, "Listen, Pete, like, if you're gonna not fucking hit these guys hard, I can't work with you anymore."
Yeah, he's like, "Have you considered killing them?" That's basically what he's saying.
Yeah. But he is right there. I think Peter is not hitting with full force. I do think that, because he could 100% knock Matt Garkin's head off his shoulders.
Oh, without a doubt.
Yeah. I mean, that's not even a question.
Yeah.
And so that fight should not have been that hard for him. It should have been much easier. And again, because he's relying on the webs.
Well, and we see it too with the Daredevil fight.
Daredevil says, "You're a really good fighter," and Daredevil's like, "You're a very bad fighter."
Yeah, you're not. Yeah,
you're not. Yeah.
Peter doesn't know what he's doing. Again, this is very early.
Yeah,
he doesn't know what he's doing, and so far, we've seen him now face his first superpowered beings threats, right? Like the people to tech. So before this, it was muggers and stuff like that,
right? Or, cars that were careening.
Cars that were, like this is all new to him. He doesn't know what he's doing,
right?
Norman
has called Aunt May and given a cover story, said that he hung out with Harry last night, so Aunt May doesn't have to worry about it. And he leaves the hospital and then discovers that he finds out that Dr. Carla Connors is like, "Hey, our experiment's going really well."
Yes.
I have now been yelled at by a number of listeners because we have not mentioned that Paul F. Tompkins is the Wizard.
Yes,
And so we are remiss in that. We are remiss in that. And
you are. You're the Marvel guy.
I'm remiss in that.
Yeah.
I'm remiss in that. So I just did not remember the wizard's real name. I mean, that's just the thing.
Why would you?
I did not think to look it up. I mean,
Why
his
would
name
you?
is Bentley, whatever. I mean, it's a pretty weird name. So that's
It
one of
is,
those.
but like, you know, why would you be like, oh, what's the wizard's name? Nobody
Yeah.
gives a shit.
So yeah, it is shameful though. We've been a lot of episodes and we've never done the wizard.
3 episodes.
So their experiment has gone really, really well. He goes home and Aunt May's like, what the fuck happened to you? He goes, oh, it was just skateboarding. You know, maybe I can't skateboard so well. And he calls Nico, leaves a message to apologize. And then he goes to Pearl's house because he forgot that he had a study date with Pearl to work on an assignment. And they get there and they're hanging out and talking. And their other lab partner, who's dumb as shit. Her bit is so great to me in the episode where she's introduced, where Peter gets assigned to them and he's sitting next to her and she's just taking selfies. And then at the end of the scene, she goes, "Who are you?"
Who are you?
Yeah. It's really funny. I liked it a lot.
Yeah.
While Peter's there, Lonnie comes to Pearl's house and tries to talk to her, and she's like really mad. And he's not going to leave the gang, so he takes off. Pearl comes back to the house to talk to Peter, and Peter's gone. And we see that Peter has Spider-Man ahead of Lonnie. Lonnie's like, how the fuck did you get here? And Peter tries to give him like a speech, like, you got to come back. And Lonnie's like, no, man, like, you don't know what I'm dealing with. I'm in too deep, and we got to deal with this Scorpion guy. Like, that's the thing. And so Peter can't talk him out of it. It's not looking so hot for our good friend Lonnie. Tombstone. Otto Octavius is hanging out at his secret lair, and he's playing bad video games. He's playing
some kind of farming game. Yeah.
Some kind of farming game.
Yeah, where he's just hitting a rock to get experience.
Yeah, but not just that, but it's an exploit. He's doing it before the developers close the exploit, which is so funny.
That's great.
That's so funny. I like when people who write these things know the things they're writing about, because that's a very much 100% a thing. Like that just is. He gets a phone call from Leapfrog, and he's like, "What the fuck do you want from me?" And Leapfrog is like maybe in love with Dr. Octopus.
Leapfrog's a little weird. I didn't think he was in love. I was like, is Leapfrog like setting him up? Because it was
that's a good point. He's like, "Hey, are you at the lab?" And then the SWAT team shows up.
And then he's like, "I'll bring you soup." And then when the door knocks, but I don't think he was. But it felt strange, the format of it.
Yeah, I didn't even think about that. You're right. I didn't even think about it. I thought they were just sort of establishing that Doc Ock's a piece of shit.
Yeah.
Because he's like, leave me alone. He's like, "Can I bring you soup?" He goes, "Yes, but don't talk to me." And so the door knocks, and it turns out that it is our good friends from, is it the military? Is it SWAT team?
It's like the FBI or something.
FBI. Yeah. It's a really good scene because they come in and he's like, "Oh, hi, I guess you got me." And then his fucking Doc Ock arms come out of nowhere and starts fucking these guys up really big time, like big time. And I liked it a lot. Like, and I liked it's a musical sequence. Doc Ock has a little dance number that he does.
What I like is that he's doing his little dance number, and he's got like it's not a cane, it's like a pole of some sort, and he's spinning it around, and then he drops it. And
he drops it.
That's fun.
No, it's really
he's
good.
Like, "Oh, I'm not that great at this."
It's really good.
That. Yeah.
And I thought that the arms were really well done. I thought that part of it was really good. And like the FBI keeps thinking they got him. And then again and again and again, those arms come out. And so he's getting all his money together, and he's going to just like saunter out of the base. And then he finds more cops outside. And he at first is like, "Hey, boys, this is not going to go well for you." And then Thunderbolt Ross shows up, and so does Iron Man.
Yeah.
We get Iron Man.
Now, do you think this is what I couldn't help but think? Is they're like, all right, Norman calls Thunderbolt Ross. He's like, "Hey, there's this guy. He's selling equipment, gamma powered equipment. This is where he is." Thunderbolt Ross is like, "Okay, team, let's go." Mm-hmm. And then they get there, and one of the guys is like, "Sir, Iron Man's on his way. Should we wait for him?" And he's like, "No, why don't you guys go in and get killed? And then when Iron Man shows up, it'll be more dramatic that way." And they're like, "Can't we just wait for Iron Man?"
I have to imagine they were like, this fat load scientist is not going to be a problem for us. Is my
maybe, but they called in Iron Man. They knew, like, they had to know Iron Man was on the way. You know, seems like
Um,
you just send him in, even if you're like, I don't think this guy's gonna be a problem. You'd also be like, well, we know he's got gamma powered equipment.
right.
Let's wait for Iron Man. Would be my thought.
Yeah. I mean, it's a nice dramatic bit
Yes,
at the end.
and that's what I'm saying. Is like that's what Thunderbolt Ross was like. Was like, no, you guys go in there and get killed. It raises tension.
Yeah.
It'll make it more exciting when Iron Man shows up. You know?
So Peter goes to talk to Norman Osborn. He wants to get back out swinging, but there is no costume anymore. It was destroyed. And
And
Norman
Peter
again.
very much asking very good questions. Like, can't you just make a new one? You made like 30 in like a day.
Yeah.
Like,
And,
like this shouldn't be difficult.
but Norman is not happy with him. And Norman, the way I tell you that I held my breath when Norman says to him, you know, you have power. You got to use this power because with great power comes great respect. And I was like, you sons of bitches. Like
Yep.
I should be mad about this, but I think it was
it's
really
great.
well done. It's really well done.
Yeah.
So I really like that a lot.
Yeah.
And Peter is like, wait, what? Like that's not right. And he is pretty upset about it. And he's pretty downhearted. He's feeling disillusioned because he feels like maybe Norman Osborn's kind of a piece of shit.
Well, Norman definitely, like in the hospital, Norman's like, you need to be tougher. You need to really use your power full out. And then Peter comes and is like, okay, can you help me with that? And he's like, if you have to ask, you're just not going to be able to do it. It's like, what are you talking about? That's your whole thing was coming to him being like, let me help you do this stuff. And now you're like, nah, I don't want to make another costume. Fuck off. Like,
yeah. You know how satisfying it's going to be when Peter finally does use his full power to beat the shit out of Norman Osborn?
Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah.
It's going to be unreal satisfying.
Yeah.
They're doing a really good job of establishing this relationship and establishing the stakes of it. And I mean, really, really.
And well also establishing that Harry's probably going to go bad too. Because when Harry, after Norman leaves and Harry and Peter are talking, and Peter says, he told me like great power comes great respect. And Norman's like, well, or Harry's like, well, you know, my daddy's very powerful and people respect him. And that's what matters.
Yeah.
And it's like, oh, you're going to go down that road too, aren't you?
Yeah. So we end up seeing the 110th Street gang have an alleyway meeting. And who should he be with but the Chameleon?
Yes.
In his chameleon costume, but also dressed like a Russian mobster with the chain around his neck and the black turtleneck. I think it's actually a great look, I think.
It's a great look. I like that they're like, why are you wearing a mask? He's like, don't, because fucking I got in trouble. Like, I like that that's his whole deal. It's like, people may recognize me.
Yeah, I was actually surprised. They like, you know, say like, how do we know who you are or whatever. And I'm surprised they didn't do like a face swap in that moment.
Yeah,
like a reveal of the power, but I guess I didn't. He
does he even have the power? Or is it just a mask?
I think the mask is going to end up doing it. It's a thing he got from Doc Ock.
When did he get it from Doc Ock?
Didn't he get? Oh, they didn't get their stuff from Doc Ock.
No,
only she did. Only Unicorn did. Yeah, you're right. Huh? I guess that's interesting. Curious. Okay. So the 110th Street gang wants real weapons. Like they're up against a super guy. They want super weapons. And so Chameleon tells them where Doc Ock's hideout is. Now, I'm kind of curious about this because it does feel like it might be a little late.
Yes. I would think it's too late.
That could just be a plot point that they show up too late. Like that could 100% just be a plot point. I don't know. But it does feel like the FBI has that on lockdown and Homeland Security has that on lockdown.
Yeah. If in the next episode they go there and it's just like, oh, he's not here, but all of his equipment is, I'll be like, they just left it all? That's
like, I mean, I'm worried they're going to show up. It's just going to be crime scene tape.
Yeah.
So we'll see. We'll see if that's the way that it works.
Yeah.
But it's funny because like, if you just put this scene at the beginning of the episode, as opposed to here after Ock has been raided, it would play really different. And then how it plays out next week, who knows?
Yeah.
But here it does feel strange. So we cut then back to Harry and Peter talking. Peter's pretty like upset about the whole thing and he doesn't have a Spider-Man suit anymore. And Harry's like, hey, this is Oscorp. I got you a Spider-Man suit. And guess what? I used your pictures that you had drawn to create this suit. And we don't see the suit, right? We just see the reflection in
we just see like the reflection
in the glasses.
Like, yeah.
But it's the Spider-Man suit. It's the classic Spider-Man suit. And that is the end of our episode.
That is not the end of the episode.
But what did I miss?
To make all the online shippers excited, Harry says, go get him, Tiger.
Oh, that's right.
Which is like, oh, okay.
All right. Nobody else in this universe is going to say that, I guess, because he's not going
Nope.
to meet MJ. It seems like so.
Yep.
Yeah, why not? Why not give that to Harry? What if Harry, Peter, and Nico become a thruple?
That'd be amazing.
Very modern. Very
Yeah.
modern.
Yeah.
That would actually be amazing, and I would love to see 65-year-old Spider-Man fans having heart attacks about this on the internet, just losing their shit because they're a thruple.
Yeah.
I don't know that Peter could be in a thruple. I don't know that Peter has the self-esteem required to be in a thruple.
Yeah.
I feel like he would be too jealous. But who knows? Maybe this version of Peter has a little bit more self-respect or something. I don't know. What do you think of these 3 episodes?
They were great. The show was fantastic. It's a fantastic show.
Do you know what I was thinking? Is that if we didn't have this podcast, I wouldn't have watched the show.
No,
No, I would
I think
not.
you would have. I think
I
you
don't
would
think I would have, because there's been other animated Spider-Mans I just skipped. I just don't
Yeah,
care.
but I think this you would have been like, I had nothing to do today. Let me watch an episode, and that would have been it.
Maybe.
But
I
like,
mean,
I don't think you would be watching it right now. I think it would be very much like in Atlanta or a Better Call Saul, where it's like 5 years later. I guess I'll watch this now.
yeah, maybe.
You know.
I mean, it's funny because it's so excellent. And it really is like, it's funny while Marvel is fucking up other things. This is so good. Like Agatha
Yeah.
all along is so good. They've had a lot of really good work. It's just that the big stuff isn't working, it seems like.
Yeah.
But like this is fucking terrific. I mean, this
Yes.
is maybe one of the best Spider-Man adaptations ever made. I feel confident saying that.
I mean, we'll wait and see how it all pans out. But so far, yeah, it's been very, very good. It's
Well, you know what's funny? I was watching the Daredevil episode, and it really made me think, you know what? They shouldn't be making these things into movies. Like these things, this is how these things should be. They should be, I mean, frankly, animated shows.
sure.
Like, because you can do more in an animated show, but also it's the continuous storytelling that makes these stories what they are.
Yeah.
It isn't just like tuning in every 3 years for a 6-issue crossover event. Like,
Yeah.
it's like the point of these things is like the one time
the
that he fights
episodic
episodic nature, he
soap
fights
opera
Daredevil
aspect,
a little
yeah.
bit here, and like
Yeah.
this relationship is growing there,
Yeah.
and they get it. Like this show gets it. They spent a lot. Like this episode, other than Doc Ock, and that's late in the episode, there's no action. And
Yeah.
there was a bit where I was like, oh, they're just going to have no action in this episode at all.
Sure. Sure.
But I would be happy. Like, I'm fine with that because there's
Well,
enough character stuff that really
yeah.
works.
No, I mean, I don't disagree. I like in general, like, the best X-Men outside of the comics is X-Men 97, right? Like none of the movies are as good as that. The best Batman, Superman, DC stuff is the Bruce Timm era of the animated, Batman animated, Superman animated, Justice League Unlimited. Those are great. Those are fantastic stories and fantastic character stuff, because they can just be like, okay, we're going to spend 30 minutes and he's going to fight Scarecrow, 30 minutes and he's going to fight Metallo, 30 minutes and, they'll go to the Flash's city and Batman will see that his ways don't work there, but Flash has a whole thing that he does, right? Like you can do that kind of stuff and it works and it's fun and it flows. This is much more, and X-Men 97 and even the X-Men show from the 90s was much more, they're much more ongoing serialized compared to the Tim stuff, but like it works because also you can do things with these characters that maybe doesn't work as well in live action. Would the fight between Spider-Man and Daredevil on the blades of a helicopter work well in live action? I don't know. I watching it here was like, this is awesome. In live action, it may not look as cool.
Right.
It may look kind of weird and goofy, right? Who knows?
The Batman and Cape Crusader is in the same territory too, where it's serialized.
Yes.
And I think, again, like the key here is that with the animated shows, I'm not an animation guy. So this is a big thing for me to say. With the animated shows, you can make them not kiddie, but also not kid unfriendly.
Yeah.
And so you're hitting the actual balance that the comics are supposed to hit. And then you can have an episode like with the one where Peter gets almost killed by Scorpion, and it has so much weight. Because that is not how this usually goes.
Yes.
And then that really is meaningful. I also like how quickly Peter heals, by the way. And they make a point of it. Like, Norman's like, hey, you're really healing fast. Yeah. And then by the time it's like Sunday, he's like totally fine. Like, and I like that very much because that's how it should be. And that is correct.
Yeah.
But I like that they acknowledge it, that like this kid is fucked up, but like he can heal really fast. But yeah, I love this show, man. I love this. And we only have 2 more left.
Yeah. I don't know why they rush through them like this.
I mean, I don't either. I'm not mad about it.
Especially like, it's not like they've already renewed it for 2 more seasons. It wasn't like they were like, no one's gonna watch this. Like, or in theory at least. Like, I don't know.
I mean, it might be because the audience they're trying to hit is a younger audience, and the younger audience wants to binge.
Sure.
They don't want to come back week after week. And if you give them 90 minutes a week, that feels more like a binge to them than having to just do 25. Because, when you do like the weekly shows, everybody goes on Reddit and complains about the runtime. Every single episode of any of these things. It's the first thing they go, why was this only 28 minutes? Like,
it's crazy to me.
And so I think that might be why. I think because they are going for a younger audience on some level, that they're meeting them halfway on the binge model. Because again, the kids love the binge model. They grew up on it.
I know, but it upsets me. Although I will say, like two episodes ago of the Pitt, their cutoff point for an episode, I was like, this is a terrible cutoff point.
The Pitt, I really wish I had not started watching. I wish I had come to it when it was mostly done.
Yeah.
Because it is agonizing to do 1 hour of that show and just kind of be getting into the flow of it.
Yeah.
And then the show just ends and you're like, oh my fucking God. I got to wait a whole week.
It was the episode. I believe it was 2 episodes ago.
Where she gets shoved?
No, does she get shoved? I don't remember anyone getting shoved, but it's the mom and the daughter. The daughter was there to have an abortion, and the mom are arguing.
She shoves. What's her name? The doctor. That's the last shot of the episode.
And the doctor goes, "Okay, that's enough." And then the credits came up. I was like, "That is not enough of a climactic moment to end your episode on."
What if the reveal is like the editing team just thought that she was talking to them? And then the creators like, no, there's like 6 more minutes of this episode. I don't know what happened.
Maybe because that was the most Netflix ending of an episode I've seen in a long time. Where it's like, well, that's it. That's the hour.
It was a very shocking cut to credits on that. Like, and not in a oh my God, what's going to happen next? But like, wait, that's it. But no, it's agonizing. The Pitt is agonizing because I'll watch it. I'll get into it. The first 5 minutes, I sink back into the show, and then I'm in the show for 40 minutes, and then it ends, and I'm like, wait, that's it? That's all I get? I can't watch the next one? Yeah. It's very, very agonizing.
It's a very addictive show. It's very.
By the way, so my theory on the Pitt for anybody listening at home or watching, the kid who the mom is worried about him shooting up the school, he's going to shoot up the concert that Robbie's son's going to.
Oh, you think so?
Yeah, there's no way. They've established this concert. Robbie was supposed to go. He gives the kid his pass so he can bring his girlfriend. We introduce Robbie's kid. Everybody loves Robbie's kid. Robbie's kid is not a problem kid. He doesn't have his own story to deal with. He's going to come in with a gunshot wound in his chest.
Okay.
That's because this is that kind of show.
Sure.
Do you know what I mean? Like, it is that kind of show.
Especially since Robbie's not pushing to find that kid. Yeah, I can see
it's gonna have a heavy impact on him, and also because he's having that bad day, and the bad day is because it's a personal connection to somebody who died on this day. I think that makes a lot of sense. And again, this is a show that uses those old school TV tropes, I think, very well. But that's 100% an old school TV trope.
Yeah,
and there will be an episode that will end. We got a mass casualty event, and they say it's at the festival, and everybody's like, "Oh my God!" And the doors bust open, and here comes Robbie's kid.
Yeah,
that's my big guess.
Is that my son? Is that my son in there? Yeah. Last week's it got renewed for a second season. Not shocking. Yeah, not shocking.
Oh, good.
And the show creator said that there will be a large time jump between seasons 1 and 2.
That makes sense. It's probably be a year later or something like that. Yeah. This week's episode, like, spoilers for anybody who's not watching The Pitt. Boy, Dr. Santos got to get fired.
You think so?
I like Dr. Santos. But like, I think that I like her style, like that she's like a real pain in the ass. And she's like, that's usually a male character and they made a woman be that. I think it's really fun. But this episode where she has the guy on who's intubated and she thinks that he molested his daughter, but there's no actual evidence. And the kid doesn't seem to think that she's been molested. And she's like, I will kill you. You will die. You are at my mercy. That is 100%. If you're a doctor, you don't do that. I went to the Pitt Reddit. And they have a lot of doctors that post there. And every doctor was like, I was screaming at the TV, like, you do not do this. Like, you cannot do this. Like, you're a doctor. Even if you know this guy's a child molester, you have to just treat this guy.
Which is what Robbie says.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. And so when he gets that tube out, I mean, I did not think they were going to fire her, but that is 100%. I don't know how you come back from that, like, professionally. Like, she loses her license for that. That's how bad that is.
Oh, sure. To be like, I'll murder you?
Yeah.
I imagine doctors, that's frowned upon. I do think that if I dropped a scalpel into somebody's foot, I would just walk out and be like, I'm done being a doctor. That's not going to work out. This career is not for me. I've just dropped a scalpel into a person's foot.
I think that's the kind of thing that happens all the time. Not necessarily the
Maybe,
foot, but they
but
probably
I'm just
drop scalpels
saying,
a lot.
I'm sure they drop scalpels a lot, but like that, I would just walk out. I'd be like, this is just not going to work out for me. Like, there's two people in the show that if any of these things happen to me, dropping a scalpel into somebody's foot, I'm out. Goodbye. Every time I walk into a room, I get covered in blood. I'm out. Goodbye. Like, that's the end of it. That would be the end of my day.
I'm really worried. I'm really worried that they haven't had him get covered in fluids in a couple episodes, and that we're coming for something real bad. Like, I'm really worried he's going to get like a blow of shit in his face. Like, I feel like that's almost guaranteed. By the way, Dr. Mel, who I love, and if anything bad happens to Dr. Mel, I will break my TV. She's Bryan Cranston's daughter.
Is she really?
Yeah.
Wow.
Isn't that great?
Idea.
Nepo baby, but she's terrific.
Legacy artist, I think.
Legacy. But she's great though. She's really great.
Yeah.
I think it's good for us to hold the Pitt talk for the end of the episodes. People could just tap out. They're like, "What the fuck are these guys talking about?" I don't know what
they're talking about.
I don't watch this show.
Well, you should, because
I'm not a grandmother watching her medical stories.
I want to be very clear. I'm not a medical show guy. Like, I watched some of ER when it was originally on. It didn't really grab me. I've never watched House. I'm not a medical show guy. This show, I don't know what it is about this show. It hooks you quick.
Yeah, it's really good.
Like, real fast. And the characters are really interesting. And the thing that I don't like in medical shows is, in medical shows, it often feels like every doctor is the super genius doctor. That's not the feeling I get on this show. On this show, it feels more like they're like, I don't know, maybe they're like, sometimes they fix the problem. Sometimes we don't know what's going on. Like, and I like that. I like that format to it.
Yeah.
And I find that very fun. I like, what's his name? Doc Handsome, Dick Grayson.
Dr. Langdon.
Dr. Langdon. He is kind of a dick, but not.
He's in trouble. He's stealing drugs.
Oh, is he? Oh.
So in the episode where Dr. Santos is trying to open the thing and she can't, and then she's like, I think this was tampered with. And he keeps saying, give him more of that drug. And she's like, this will kill him. He goes, no, give more. It's because he knows that he already pulled the drug out of that and replaced it with water.
Okay.
He knows that. And that's my guess.
Okay.
But like, it's funny. I had a friend text me when I was watching it last week and they were like, what are you doing? I go, I'm watching my stories. And never before have I more felt like I'm watching a show that is my stories. Like, that is what this show is.
No, it's really good. It's really, really good. It's really well done. And it's got a real good sense of humor to it too.
Yeah, it's funny. Yeah.
I'm happy. I mean, it's not shocking it got picked up for a second season. Apparently it's the biggest show Max has had. And I think it's on HBO as well. They're showing it on HBO as well. And it's huge on HBO.
That makes sense. Yeah, that makes sense.
And like, it's just a really well done show. And
it's 15 episodes. So it's like fucking like expansive. So like a lot of the time we would be at the point where the show ends in most streaming shows, because we're like on episode 8 or something. Like often that's like as many as you get.
Well, I mean, also on most streaming shows, each episode would be about one character.
Right.
And it'd be like, now this is this person's episode. And it's like, I find that very tiring. Like, you're not doing a TV show, you're doing separate stories at that point.
Right.
And then maybe there's one episode at the end where they all come together to stop somebody's heart attack. I don't know. But like, I like that it's got that old school flow where it's like, okay, we're going to follow this person for a couple of minutes. This is the A story, the B story, the C story for this episode, right? And it's fun watching that. And they do it really well. They could work on their ending of episodes a little bit. They're not always that dramatic or like grabby. And yet, when Thursday comes, I'm excited for 9:00.
Well, since every episode is 1 hour in a shift and it's 15-hour shift, and that's what the show is, it does sort of make sense that some of the episodes would not end with big moments, because not every hour of the day ends with a big moment, right?
Yes, but also it's a TV show. It's not real live.
These characters have gone to the bathroom a couple of times now.
Yes, which is very exciting.
Robbie's gone twice, and Dr. Langdon went too. And I was very excited to see these things happen. I was counting down the minutes till somebody took a piss.
Lunch.
They had lunch.
They had lunch.
Yeah, I love it. I love it. All right. So sorry, we're yapping about the Pit. We'll be back again next week with the final 2 episodes of Your Friendly Neighborhood Spider-Man. Looks like we're getting Peter in his traditional costume just in time for the season to end. If you enjoyed this, come join us at the Patreon, www.patreon.com/cinemasanga, SANGHA. And become a subscriber. You can get our Watchmen monthly superhero deep dive podcast. Again, we just talked about Captain America Brave New World, 3 hours on it. So come listen to us chat about that, and also support us. If you are listening to this on the free feed, not through the Patreon, please go and rate us. Give us a 5-star rating on your podcast app of choice. It really would make a big difference for us. All right, we'll see you guys again next week. Until then,
if you're watching on the YouTube, like and subscribe.
Like and subscribe. Let the whole fucking thing play out too, by the way. Just sit there, let it play in the background. Just let it go. Just let it go.
If you're not watching on the YouTube, go to YouTube, watch it, and just let it play out.
Go
to bed.
Put
it on and go to bed. That's what I do.
Put it on loop and go to bed.
Yeah.
All right. We'll see you guys again next week. Until then, may you be happy, may you be healthy, may you be safe, may you be well, but most of all, may you remain a true believer.